Hello, I guess I didn't get the rest of that song. It's me, Kevin Vonesper. Welcome to the GWARPod. I have one of my oldest Gwar shirts on. My oldest is probably the classic logo from the 90s, but I cut it all up, and this is from 2004 War Party. That's going a little casual today. We got a special guest, Matt Maguire, on the show today. He is the first actual current member of Gwar to be on the show, and I was warning him a little bit beforehand that at some point I may just have to run out of here to the bathroom, and that's because I don't even know if it's still good, but I knew I was saving it for something, and tonight was the special occasion to break out my Espresso Destructo. And oh boy, I don't think this is meant for people who are not half cyborgs. So I'm risking it. It's been in the refrigerator, so I think that preserves it. We are going to see, stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, and whoever else may be out there. Monsters, creatures, welcome to GWARPod.
GWARPod comes from on
GWARPod. 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 GWARPod.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
What's going on, man? Do they still make this stuff or what?
No, that was the batch that we had made for that time period. I guess. Well, that was a couple of years in it.
It was a couple of years ago, so I have like a little bit left, and I don't
Nice.
know if I'm supposed to be drinking it, but I figure when else but tonight to break this out, right?
Sure.
We got Mr. the slave of Sawborg Destructo. Do the Destructos have slaves? Is that how it works for them too? Or?
Yeah. Our human counterparts that do all the work that the Destructos don't want to do.
Yeah. Are they just lazy or just, what's
No, they're too busy coming up with half-hatched plans to try to kill Gwar and get off the planet, or
Yeah, I'm still waiting
million.
for it. I've been hearing about this for like 40 years.
I know, right? You think that after 3 guys have been sent, somebody would get it right at this point.
I know. Yeah, I know there's been some other Destructos in the lore, and I'll probably ask you about those later. We get nerdy here, okay, Matt?
Sure.
And we got an audience, so we gotta please our nerds.
Yeah, bring them on.
So if there's any crazy Mythos questions that I come up with that don't have an answer, by all means, make something up, and it's canon here on the GWARPod.
Yeah, it's totally canon.
Yeah, that's how that used to be. That's how like a lot of the great ideas started, right?
I'll rewrite I'll rewrite all of it right now.
Hey, this is the requel.
Yeah, right. So yes, questions, answers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's for now, let's just start with the beginning. Like, are you a native Richmonder, or how did you get to Richmond?
No, much like a lot of the people in Gwar, my parents were military, so we moved around a lot and bebopped. I actually lived pretty much all over the country, and then my dad got stationed here, and we stayed here for a while, and then I went to when Gwar was starting in the early 80s or mid 80s or whatever. I was hearing about it because I was still in high school when it started,
right?
And I was like, oh man, this is crazy band, because at that time there was nothing else like that.
I mean, Kiss. Were you even going to shows in high school yet?
Yes, I was, and that's the thing. Like, hey mom, I'm gonna go spend the night at my friend's house, and then drive to DC to go see the show. And actually,
nice. Who did you see? Like the hardcore scene?
Well, yeah. So we go up there for the hardcore shows, and we go up there for all kinds of stuff. I saw anything I could go see. I was going and seeing at that age, because I was into different kinds of music. And I also just like the spectacle. So anybody who was doing, performance or bands who were doing something that was just a little bit more over the top, I kind of gravitated towards, because, I liked Kiss. I was like, Kiss was awesome, and especially for its time, it was like that proto Gwar, I mean, they definitely had a different market, and
they spit blood a little bit.
Yeah, it's and that's the thing. It's like they had the right idea of how to market that, and the thing that I liked about Gwar was that it was that eclectic. It was like punk and metal and thrash, and it was all mixed up, and it was just a big mess. And the costumes and the props were amazing for the time. Like there was like
Hmm.
like Hunter always says, was like, oh, there's barbarians and space chicks and dinosaurs and stuff. Who doesn't like that,
Yeah, yeah, it's a good
And
line.
yeah,
It's true.
and yeah, and so like I would go, sneak out to go see the shows, and then of course come home covered in blood, and my mom would be like, "Oh my God, what happened?" You know. But
Performance art, mom.
yeah,
Performance art.
well, funny thing was is that even at that age, I actually met Don first, and he actually was the reason we got into our. I think that was our third Gwar show we'd been to at 9:30 Club, and he got us in on the guest list. He got me and my friends in the guest list, and I made a point to go like thank him and talk to him for a little bit. So it struck up a conversation and just got to it was like name face da 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 yeah kid, you know that kind of thing. And then I'd seen
And
Hunter.
how old were they at the time? I mean, you were like 16 or something. Like
Yeah, it was in that ballpark.
they were probably only in their like early mid 20s, even if it seemed like a
Yeah,
lot, right? Yeah.
yeah, it was in that ballpark for those guys as well. Because like I mean, Hunter had already finished college, and
Mm.
and I think Don was pretty close as well, or he was done. But
Were
yeah, it was like
were
it
there
was it,
other DC bands that were like theatrical other than Gwar that
yeah,
you were
like
seeing?
yeah, there was like because even with that one, they had what was the name of the band? There was this band, I think it was called Esmeralda.
Hmm.
They did a bunch of stuff. Then they had Dred Zeppelin.
I
There was
remember Dred
yeah,
Zeppelin.
there was there
Yeah,
was there
they
was
were
there
from
was
DC. I didn't know that.
yeah. Well,
They they
they
seem like
played
a
there.
California band.
They played there a lot. I don't know if they're from DC. They might have been. I think Philly, maybe. I don't
Oh.
know. I'm not exactly sure. But I saw them
Hmm.
quite a few times. I saw them like three times. Um, and there was like that. I think it was a band called Scooter Trash, maybe. They
That's a
were
cool
DC.
name.
They were a DC band. I think that they opened for Gwar a couple times, and of course, like it's some of the like crossovers, like Jim Diaz and Greta. They were in this band called Cowcan that opened up for Gwar a few times, and they would do a lot of like performance stuff too.
What
Let's
kind
have
of
a
stuff were
giant,
they doing?
giant, giant foam core cutout cow that would come out on stage, and they'd break
That's
it all
cool.
up and stuff. You know, there was quite a few at that point. It seemed
Hmm.
like every time I turned around, like Gwar always had somebody, like because like Ween opened up for Gwar a
Oh
bunch of
yeah,
times,
Ween.
and that was just it was a hoot. It was just those guys were like way more
Dude,
ridiculous for two guys
I
on
mean,
stage.
the first time I heard Ween was probably through Beavis and Butthead, but I didn't know who they were yet. First time it really registered was because of Gwar and that song you kind of have at the end of the Road Behind EP.
Yeah, that was because our sound guy at the time,
I imagine
everybody.
it was just a soundboard recording of the
It,
radio,
it,
or right.
it was it well he was playing it because we had all the music because we hung out with those guys quite a few times and played with them.
Hmm.
And it was funny because like one of my first shows I was actually in, I was too young to get backstage. Like
Hmm.
they wouldn't let me. It was like City Gardens was one of the places.
Wow,
And
that was one of your first shows?
yeah, I
Okay.
I this was funny for so many reasons because it was one of those. It was an interim show. It was uh
Was it the one
Dawn.
opening for Danzig?
No, no, that was a
No.
little bit later because
Okay.
I had been hanging around and being like that kid that was in the corners and 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 it was funny because we'd finished Fallacy in Wonderland, and Don and uh, Hunter, I think a couple other people were in Vancouver uh, editing it and doing stuff with it, and so that's why they're like, "Hey, who's around? Who can go with us?" So we gathered. I mean, it was like there was just a bunch of friends who jumped on the bus to do the parts because it was going to be just a Destroy All Monster
Mm.
show. It was like 4 or 5 shows, and back then the Destroy All Monster show was, hey, just a bunch of monsters come and attack in sequence, and just
Kind of like the
everything that
Halloween shows.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of the 101 Gwar. Like,
Right.
okay, what's in the back? Put everybody in a costume. They come out and
Mhm.
attack. And so I was doing Cardinal Sin, that television version of him that would
Mm.
transform out. I was playing him, and and the first couple of shows, it was like it was just like mind blowing, because you're sitting there, you're like, oh man, this is just crazy to be part of this, because there's just so much going on. But one of the guys who was supposed to play the cockroach was like, it was like he wasn't taking it seriously at all. It was like, oh, I'm out here having fun with my friends, and it was like New Year's Eve. Uh, Shoot, I can't remember. Yeah, it was like a New Year's Eve show, and he goes, I'm not gonna be in the show. I'm gonna go see Ween at this house party, and so he leaves, and so then our other friend who was standing around, who was already tripping on acid, he was like, they were like, you get to be the cockroach tonight. uh, and he's like, I don't know, I'm tripping already. And it was so funny, because I roll out as Cardinal Sin, and he had come out of this cockroach, and he had fallen down on his back, and he was just rolling around on his back on the floor, and I didn't see him, and I tripped on him, and I fell
Oh
on him,
no.
and then he grabbed me with all the roach arms, and he's holding me down, and I'm like, get off me. And he's laughing. He's like, isn't this fun? And I'm like, no, get off me. And he won't let go of me. And I was like, hurry up, let go of me. And I finally had to punch him in the gut,
Oh
because
no.
I saw Scott Craw gotten in the Gorgor, and he was just barreling through, and I got up just in time to see him step the big dinosaur foot on the cockroach, like he just went,
Oh no.
But yeah, it was funny. I came home from that show. David hit me in the face like multiple times with weapons and stuff. I had 2 black eyes, a fat lip, and a concussion from that first first run of shows.
And
I was
you're
like,
like, career
let's
move,
let's
huh?
do this for a while.
Yeah, for a while. So wait, you joined in the 80s?
No, it was the
It's
early
like early
90s.
90s?
Yeah, because
Okay.
so like my first show was, I think,
I
it
was
was
gonna
like the
ask, like, do you remember
91.
your actual well, first of all, do you remember your actual first Gwar show before you joined? Where was
Yeah,
it?
it
When
was
was it?
87, or no. Yeah, it was 87. And then I saw them a bunch, because when Hello came out, they were doing a lot more shows.
Yeah, right.
And so then yeah, through that whole time period, because the funny thing is that, um, if you look hard enough at Live from Antarctica, and Danielle always confuses it, because she remembers seeing me, because I knew Don and I knew Hunter at that point, but I wasn't in the band. I was just
Mhm.
there to see the show. Like, my girlfriend at the time had bought me a ticket. My high school girlfriend bought me a ticket, and it was like, "Hey, let's go to the Gore show." And I didn't know that was they were filming that show. So I'm
Oh,
in the
that's
crowd at that show. Like, I'm
wait,
actually in
that
front.
was actually a paid audience? I always figured they were just, like, plant
The no, so they filmed some friends the first day, and then did filming
okay.
for, cutaways and close-ups and stuff. And then the second day was an actual show,
Hmm.
and that show was bananas. Like, it was awesome. It was so cool. And yeah, it was funny, because then what was like, you look at the book, Bobby put out with
Mhm.
the uh gosh, now I'm
Let me reach
confusing.
into
Yeah,
my
the
my
novel,
lair.
or
The
as
the
Hunter calls
Bible,
it.
the Gwar Bible.
Yeah, as Hunter calls it, the Book of Lies.
Yes, yes, yes. We've t we've heard that from Hunter. But I
But
love it because he signs it anyways. He's like
yeah, no, that's
he's
the thing.
also
He's
proud of
he's
it,
all
you
yeah.
know?
Well, I mean, he should be proud of it. I
Yeah,
mean, the thing
exactly.
is that regardless of how he feels, how things went down and stuff, he was responsible for helping create something that is really unique. In the scope of music and art and all that stuff. And
Yeah,
it couldn't have happened without him, for sure. You know,
absolutely.
and and that's it's anyways. But
So wait,
yes,
is there,
first.
in the archive, is there, like, more from the Live from Antarctica show that was filmed that just
Yeah,
you
so
know,
they
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 must have played
they
a longer set for, like, the real show, right?
they did, and they also they it was uh they didn't have much stop. It wasn't like, hey, stop the show, we're gonna refilm this or
Right.
whatever. I think because they filmed the day before, and then that's what Danielle always confuses. She thinks I was there filming, and with the grueling, because it
Mhm.
was like a long shoot the day
Yeah,
before, and then a show, so
that
and
makes sense.
she's like, "Oh no, you remember that?" And I was like, No, I had school that day.
Yeah, I was in math class.
Yeah, I was in math class back then.
Doodling on my notebook. Did
Actually,
you did
yeah,
you do Gwar doodles in high school?
yes, I did, and I
Do you
did.
still have them?
I do actually have.
Oh,
So
wow.
in our Gwar archives, I put anything I did of Gwar, I put in there. So any of my sketchbooks, anything I had from those time periods, I actually put in there. And there was a few. Um, I did a picture of Odorous, Slyminster, and Sleazy, circa that time period, and I did a bunch of stuff because when I first met Hunter, um, he had talked to me about art and stuff, and we definitely found out that we liked a lot of the same stuff, and we kind of struck a friendship by basically wanting to do comics and draw comics together and stuff. And that's initially, it wasn't me hanging out to do Gwar, it was me hanging out to do comics with him. But then, hey, let's go pour some medallions at the slave pit, which
Mm.
back then it was the 801 slave pit, and it was up above
That
which is
Chamberlain Street?
no,
No, that was after?
no, it's on no, it was before that. It was actually on
Oh.
Broad Street, and it was right across the street from this club, which at that
Oh,
time was
yeah.
called Rockets, or
Rockets,
was
right.
Metro, and
Okay.
it was just right across it, which was funny
That's
because
so
like War
convenient. I always hear stories where you guys just walk over there
walked
in your
across the street,
costumes.
yeah,
Yeah. That's so awesome and
multiple
convenient.
times,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's do 2 shows. That'll be easy.
Is that where
Yeah.
Live from Antarctica was filmed?
No, that was actually
No.
filmed at the Flood Zone, which
Oh, right.
is
I always
no
get those
longer.
confused. See,
Yeah.
I've never been to any of these places, so my reference is just, like, names and dates.
Yeah, of course, yeah, but that place is no longer there,
Mhm.
and, it was fun because that
It's
was
not
like
a shoe store now or a
it
condo?
was it was like a club. I don't even know what it is now. I don't even know if it's still there. I think they might have put
Mm.
condos there or something. I don't
Yeah. See, I called it. Like, overpriced combo.
Yeah, yeah,
Gwar used to play here on a big plaque outside.
yeah, yeah, the Keystone is
Well, do you wanna talk about comics? You mentioned comics. We're just gonna, like, go all over the place
sure,
here.
um,
Uh,
yeah, I mean,
I got some props here because I know you kind of,
yeah.
co-wrote or, like, had the
I did.
story
Yeah,
for this one.
Me and Dirks wrote it, and then he went and did the actual scripting with the Granger brothers,
Mhm.
and I actually laid out the entire book. So I did all the thumbnails and did all the framing for the artist to do
Dude,
the
this is
artwork
hard
from.
to fit on a shelf, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah, that deluxe one it's a beast, but it's awesome. I
Yeah,
love
someone had
seeing
to
it
tell
that
me that
big.
there was, like, a regular one. I was like, "What?" Oh,
But it's worth having the deluxe for sure.
yeah,
It's so
right?
juicy.
Because I'm supporting the hand that feeds, you know? Hey, wait, I have a question. Did the audiobook ever come out?
Yeah, that came out,
Was it on
and
a CD? Because I never got
no,
one. It's
it's
in
a
an email
link. It's a
somewhere?
link. Yeah, yeah.
I
And
was waiting for one in the mail. I was like, "I
yeah,
never got my audio." Oh, man. I
no,
gotta
it's
catch up
great
on
too
my
because
audiobook.
it was funny. We were like, I asked Hunter. I said, hey, and some of the other people were like, hey, anybody who needed to be part of it to do the voices because we were doing all the voiceovers for the
Yeah.
read through, and me and Dirk were like, well, he's like, you just do a version of Hunter. So I did my
Uh-oh.
my
Has he heard this?
no,
Does he know? Don't tell
I
him.
no, no, it's fine.
No, okay.
I told him I was like, I tried feebly to do my best techno, and it was like, but it's funny because then I did Scott Crawl's voice, and I did a few other voices, and then we had whoever was standing around, hey, come in here and do a voice.
Man, I can't believe I missed it. I thought I was waiting for, like, a CD or something.
No,
I gotta
yeah,
go find that.
yeah, it's great. It's got a little bit of animation to it as
Oh,
well from the framing of the book, so it's pretty cool. And Dirk's Dirk's worked pretty hard on that, and it came out real good.
yeah. Well, I'm just glad that Gwar has gotten back into comics in the last few years because I know that was sort of absent for a while, and I thought that was, like, a big part
Well,
of, the
it
slave pit and the whole story, and
yeah, it was exactly
mm.
like what I liked about
When I got
it.
into Gwar, you were doing the slave pit funnies,
Yeah,
so
And that was also predecessors, was Mind Control Monthly. So that was
Right.
where we would draw the comics, and a lot of those compilations came from those, and we were
Right.
trying to, for years make a footprint in the comic book world. But because we were so weird and gross and sexual and stuff, that the mom and pop stores would put it in the adult section, and you're like, well, how do we appeal to the adult section if we're trying to do stories that are not as, even at a certain point, like me and Hunter tried to do in that one. Sun and Moon was
Mm.
our attempt to try to do something that would be a little bit more like, okay, you don't necessarily have to put it in the back of the comic book store,
Right.
um, and it was like, I think in the last couple issues, we're like, fuck it. If we're going to be put in the adult section, go all adult, make it an all adult book,
Mhm.
And I think we were at a time frame where doing it yourself like that wasn't as easy as it would be now.
Right.
It's so much
Okay.
easier now, and there's so many places that you can go get good deals to do distribution and things like that, and an online presence as well. You know, it's a different beast, because back then you're still, we're folding up pamphlets and mailing them to people and crap.
Mm. Paper
Um,
cuts. Oof.
yeah. But yeah, when me and Hunter started working, like the first couple things we did was because we both had, I had a wrestling comic.
Russell.
Uh,
Right.
yeah, we that
Yeah.
was our first projects that me and him worked on, and it was great because I loved working on stuff with him. When I lived with him, I lived with him for about it was almost 2 years, and we did so much. Like we just sit there and draw like every day, making another comic or doing another idea or coming up. I think we came up with like, it was at least 50 different, you know subsection comics of different
Uh-huh.
ideas that we wanted to do, and we started working on character drawings and started doing some pages for some of them and stuff, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh
It was
man.
definitely great.
So, okay, this is leading down a whole other rabbit hole
Yeah.
of I always like to ask, like, were there a lot of ideas that kind of got scrapped due to time,
Oh,
and like
always.
what are some of your favorites, and you know, side stuff, Gwar stuff? Did anything come to mind? I
Well,
know
I
that's a
mean,
broad question there.
no, I mean, because there's so many, right? Like, so
I
even
like the weird, like the Satan skins. I'm like, where could
that's
have that gone?
that's
Like
where I was gonna
all these
go,
stupid
because
stuff. I'm like,
we had started, because X Cops kind of spawned from
mhm.
the night of Gwar that we were talking about having. So I had come up with MC Rhythmless, which was going to be like the
I
the
was gonna
rap,
I was
the
gonna bring
rap.
that up
Yeah,
later. We're
yeah,
gonna
that
talk
was
about this.
so essentially what we were going to do was going to be all the bands that open for Gwar were going to be Gwar bands, and then like, because it was Prestige that kind of
Mm,
spawned
mhm.
that idea that, oh, this that gag works so good, because at first, it went on so long and people would get so pissed off because they were like, what is this shit, and
It's so funny.
why is this happening? And then Gore would come out and kill them, and it would just be ravenous, because it was just
Yeah.
enough to piss people off, or to make them go, to question it, to go,
Yeah, it
am
was
I on
like
the
10
right
minutes or
show?
something like that.
It was yeah, because they had a whole speech in the middle of
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and
I'm
you know
Rico Grande.
yeah. And Nigel Pondfoot,
Right.
yeah, and
Did
and
they
and
have the whole was there gonna be a comic book for Prestige, or like was there more of
yeah.
a backstory for them?
Well, no, actually, Bobby did a small strip for Mind Control, and it actually shows those guys getting killed by Gwar and stuff.
Right, right.
Um, but yeah, like we had MC Rhythmless, there was X Cops, there was Scumbucket, there was Satan
Wait,
Skin.
what's Scum Bucket?
Scumbucket was a bluegrass band that was all mutants, and they were all like inbred mutant weirdos, So like it was going to be like one guy had like a kind of a quado looking guy hanging out of him, and then another, there was just weird. Like one guy was just a head with little arms, was the drummer, I think, and uh,
I bet the current band would be into that.
well, I mean, it's like we talked about, like, because X Cops, I know Dirks and Pete are working on stuff. There are some things that might come down the line with that. So X Cops is still going to be
Nice.
around and stuff and be a thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Um,
get Pete on this.
me and Dirks had rewrote the MC Rhythmless script because originally it was a comic that was going to go
Right.
with that cassette,
Hmm.
and the comic just never got
Yeah.
finished. I have
This
all the
is an
pages.
original
Yeah,
Slate Fit single, man. I got all of them in the back there, but
I was thinking about putting that out because it is. They have all the pages. They're not all quite done yet, but they're there.
it's
And then,
been probably almost done for like almost 30 years then.
yep, yep.
Damn.
And it was supposed to be one of those things that me and Hunter were trying to take the mail order department to start the comic
Yeah.
book section so that projects like that could help support the bands, so like we could do demos and things like that, and do more comics,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
yeah, it
Wait,
was
so
fun.
Satan Skins, what else is
Well, Satan Skins was
they were like a skinhead band, right?
yeah, it was a hardcore band, and Mike Bonner was going to be the lead singer,
Oh yeah, he's perfect for it.
and we were going to make him a prosthetic where he would sing so hard that his head would just start to expand, and then by the last song his head would blow up and all the veins would fly out and stuff.
Oh, did anyone like write any songs for these, or
uh
like how
we
far did this
had
go?
we had a lot of talk, and I think
Yeah.
some lyrics were at that point everybody sort of jotted down lyrics in sketchbooks and on
Mhm.
pieces of paper on walls, and a lot of times the ones on walls turned into jokes and personal attacks and shit like that. And not really
Oh boy.
not really as productive as it could have been, but
Right.
um yeah, the funny thing is me and Dirks actually rewrote. We were trying to rework MC Rhythmless to do a cartoon pitch to do a
Hmm.
series, and that is the funniest thing is that is why I cold called MC Chris on
Oh,
Facebook way back in the day, and
okay.
I was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, we're working on this project, and you'd be perfect for this character," and yada yada, and I was like trying to
You
pitch
finally
to him.
got him years later.
Yeah, and he was like, "Well, I don't know, like I
Huh?
got my own thing going on." But yeah, then we hung out, and he's a really nice dude. I really I love hanging out with him. He's a hoot.
See, this is the stuff that I'm like most obsessed with, like the nitty gritty, like things that got through the cracks.
Oh, there's so much, and in fact, like with it, just like, and I think I said it in the documentary. It was like the creative process was definitely gladiatorial at that point.
Mhm.
Like you were trying to shepherd ideas across, and then you know ideas would be co-opted or turned into other things and changed around and stuff. And it was constantly like that. You'd say, "Oh, well, that was my idea at the root," and then it just like a good example would be uh, the 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 story I wrote for it was a Techno Destructo time travel story
Ooh.
to put some threads together in the Gwar mythos that wasn't there because at a certain point, yes, and if you look at all of them, the first few comics are okay. Big battle happens. The Master destroys his body, and Techno's like lost, looking for the
Hmm.
scum dogs who had been sent to Earth, and they wandered around on Earth for 500 years, and they were looking for they killed animals and stuff and made their armor and stuff, and then they get together and they hang out and they do stuff, right? There
See,
was
that makes sense.
Right, and then there was the version where the Master had banished them for, you know, destroying Flapcorp 7 and going
Yeah.
into this whole
Which
thing.
has
So
finally got its own comic book.
right, which
Yeah.
I thought was fitting for that, but
Yeah.
um
And
we
and still a song that I'm waiting to hear live, hint hint. It would be a great
yeah,
battle song. I don't think you've ever played it live ever.
I don't think so. I don't think we have ever played it live
Just
if I
putting that
remember it.
into the ether,
Sure, I'll
Lab
write it
Carb
down. Hold on.
7
Yeah,
battle song next tour.
but it got to the point where I had told Dave about this story about this because I said it'd be cool if there was this like if the slaves were rummaging around in the lower parts of the slave pit and they
Mhm.
found a subgate to where they go, wait, this is actually Antarctica is actually Atlantis, and
Mm.
Atlantis is just covered in ice, and this is where the Atlanteans and all the technology and all the dinosaur spaceships, whatever the hell you wanted to dig out of the basement at any given time. But I thought that it would be cool to have this big tablet that had everything written in the history of the universe on it,
Mm.
and there was a piece missing from the tablet. And when Techno, the slaves come and say, "Hey, Techno, check this out," he sees that there's this, stuff that he can do to be like, well, wait a minute, if I, it's a total classic, like, paradoxical bullshit, where it's like, if I go back in time and get these assholes off this planet before they become decadent rock and roll assholes, then I'll complete my mission before I'm even sent to go get them,
Oh,
that whole thing.
that's clever.
And I thought then it would give us threads for why they were in Antarctica. So the story was that they were partying in Antarctica or in Atlantis, and they break whatever the machine was that was keeping the planet temperate, and the
Mm.
pole shifted, and the Atlantis started to ice over, and Gwar had to make refuge, so that they got frozen, and yada yada yada. And so when you see the guy who's tapping in the making
The
the big
tablet.
tablet,
Yeah.
he's showing that Techno's the reason why this whole cataclysm happens. Techno gets so mad he punches it out. That's why the
Oh.
hole is there in the first place. Then you find out the wah was that the slaves had that piece of the tablet in their little living quarters as their little coffee table, and it was right there in front of them the whole fucking time. So I told Dave that whole story,
Oh,
and
I love it.
then that kind of turned into
It turned into everyone's favorite Gwar record.
sure. dot dot dot.
Hey, I love at least half of that record.
Yeah, no, I think that like every Gwar record, every Gwar cycle has redeeming qualities of it. And of course people's favorite time period is when they got into Gwar. The first things that they
That's
got
true.
into.
Yeah.
Um,
Is that
and
true for you too? Is Hello your favorite?
well, to a certain extent there is, yeah, because like I equate it with the memories of those first couple of shows of being like my sweet teenage mind melting at
Yeah.
like what the fuck am I watching? Because when that first chaotic mess of stuff happens, where it's like Dave's actually biting the kid's face that jumped up on stage, and he's throwing him off as the slaves punching him, and there's blood spraying in
Yeah.
the
It
face,
was
and
pretty
there's
chaotic.
people going bananas. So it was like yeah, it was you know but being part of it for so long, I've had my moments, and there's those surreal moments where you're like, you see everybody, all your friends turn into their characters for a while.
Hmm.
And you're like,
I think that's still happening to an extent from the
oh
people I've talked to.
yeah, for
Maybe
sure.
even more so than ever.
For sure. And it definitely is a thing where it's like been very fortunate to be part of this, and to be in it as long as I have, and to not, because again, Gwar is a cruel mistress for sure.
Well, that's a good segue because I always like to ask, especially okay, this is a two-part question.
Hmm.
A, what did you think of it? And B, can you separate yourself enough from it to view it as, you know, its own thing, like
Yeah,
what
no,
do
it
you think of the
is.
documentary?
It was great. For like I think even Hunter had said it.
Hmm.
Telling the story arcs and trying to get people into it, because a lot of people who doesn't know what Gwar is, to understand what it is and
I've
understand.
been waiting for something to show those people for like 30 years.
Yeah,
This is
and I'm
it's finally it.
I'm glad it happened. I wish that everybody could have been involved. I wish like Scott and some of the other guys, Mike and Dave Muscle, and some of the other people who just
Yeah.
weren't as accessible to be in it. But because they're all important into the history of Gwar for sure. and
I totally agree.
and
Yeah.
and but to be able to get a digestible thing of like, yeah, these are all these crazy people who came together and made this really strange, unique thing happen for a very long time at this
Hmm.
point, and do it out of the sure love of it, uh, is pretty impressive.
Hmm.
But yeah, to be separate of it, yeah. The hardest, when we premiered it at the Bird in Richmond, I I actually kind of strategically left at a certain point so that I wouldn't see some of it, and then I came back, And even coming back and watching it, I'm like, fuck, there's a lot of my friends and there's a lot of things that have happened to us and things that we've been through together that is just,
It's hard to relive
it
every watch,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
right. To
sure.
sit there and try to choke it back and then go answer questions after, it was kind
Right.
of tough, because you're like, you see some of the pain and some of the angst and some of the situations we had with our friends and brothers and sisters in Gwar. It was definitely, it's been an amazing experience, us just living our lives together for so long.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of crazy shit has happened to us.
Yeah. Would you say it was accurate?
Well, yeah,
'Cause,
like that
I
was
guess everyone
definitely,
has their own take on everything, and that's what makes it even more interesting
it's
to an
it's
outsider.
it's the classic Rashomon situation, right? You're always going to just perceive it how you perceive reality, right? Like, okay,
Right.
so I'm concentrating on the shit that just pertains to me, or I can open up the wider scope and see what is happening to everybody, or I'm only paying attention to this, pencil on the table.
Mhm.
There's those things that people kind of not misremember. It's just how they remember it, you know,
Yeah,
and
totally.
and and that's fine, because I mean, having discussions with people like, oh no, and then like people co-opt the story that you had told them, or that happened to me, not you, like, and yet you're completely written out of the story at that point,
Right.
like, but yeah, it's funny because
And that's tough to fit that much history into less than 2 hours, you know?
yeah, that's exactly right. And two, man, like to go into just, I think, I think it would do it more justice to have more, like do an episodic kind of series and just go, hey, take it in chunks and follow the people and follow how
Yeah.
some people's progressions were. Because again, I think, you talk about how many talented and how many amazing people have come through this band. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's
I
it's been a
wasn't
lot.
as a fan, like, I wasn't mad at who they did have. I was not mad, but a little bit more disappointed about who wasn't included, because I'm a completist, and that's sort of why I started this show. I'm like, you know what? Well, if I can't get the full story from the documentary, like, I'm just gonna do it myself, and everyone can talk for 3, 4 hours, double
Right,
the time of the documentary,
right, right,
and get it all out there.
right.
Because
Well,
as much as Scott Barber was my first episode on this, and I told him my biggest problem with the documentary was that I didn't get to make it. And
well,
because I'm a completist and it would never be done though.
it
So,
was it was funny because even Don and Bobby had tried to take a stab at it,
right,
and yeah,
um,
the not
what,
let there be Gwar.
no, the Dim Times one.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, whatever it
And
was
and
called.
and and that was their answer for it, was to take it in segments, to go, okay, here's the beginning, and that's all we're going to talk about.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I could see the validity in it, but it also just, at the time, you're like, okay, so you go through the first few years, and you shuffled through, like the band had changed like 3 or 4 times, and all the people had, by the time you got to what Gwar solidified as Gwar, all those
That's when
people
it
were
ends,
gone.
right? Yeah.
Like a lot of those
Yeah,
people were
it's a
gone.
definitely different premise, It's like, what about the other 30 something years?
Right. And that, but and even in that sense, it's like I
But even so, I want that too. Like, I'm so
yeah.
interested in the early days because it's so weird and
No,
it's so
it wouldn't
chaotic.
have.
Every time I talk to someone, I hear like a new detail. Like, there was a character called the Watcher, and all he did was sit there and watch.
Well, it was
Like,
funny.
that's awesome.
I
He needs his own comic book.
I was laughing because I had watched the one with Hunter, and
Did he say that?
no, you had
Okay.
mentioned, what I was going to say was, you mentioned the it was a line from the Skullhead Face comic, and you were reading it verbatim, and
Oh
it was like,
yeah,
it
the
was about the Bohab, it was like
the green
Crystal,
jelly what line?
yeah, Crystal Pepsi,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was funny because when we were writing all those with Chuck, like Chuck had written down, it was directly, he was picturing our
He's
friend
got my
Bob the
comic here.
Slob,
Right.
yeah, and Bob the Slob was like that kind of dude, like he was sort of a archetypal Bohab. He was
Yeah.
the he was, I guess, what they call now a Punisher, but he was also like just such a lovable dude, that you didn't want to be like, all right, Bob, shut up, like just stop, but
Yeah, and he was in that show too, right? The
yeah,
Shaper Court and
he was the terrorist with which was
Were you there?
hilarious.
Were you at that show?
No, I didn't
Oh.
get to see that one. That one, I wish I'd seen that one, because that one
Is
was
it
like,
in the archives and when can we see it? Because
oh dude, that
I
show,
see that there is
yes,
some footage in the
it
documentary.
it is so freaking good. Like, it is such a good show. Like,
You
they
could put that
spent,
out on its own, man. We
I
will all buy
I'm
it.
I'm sure, because like, you want to talk about mind blowing, it was like they spent, like they said, yes, they spent the whole month working on this show, where they built a fully scaled airplane engine and had a zip tie where it
Mhm.
flew into the Uncle Nobby in the
Right.
wheelchair and kills him, and they had the meat grinder, and they had, the cockroach, they had everything.
Everything.
So the funny one was, it was Bob was part of the Lebanese lesbian left-wing terrorist group that had hijacked the plane that was circling the show. And so, when for some reason they thought he needed to be wearing the dynamite and have the plunger, but then how did the plane blow up, and whatever, sure, it looked cool.
Nobody really questions logic at a Gwar show,
It
I've
looked cool. Well,
noticed.
yeah, considering that, like, yeah, then you had to order the interdimensional pizza by playing the record backwards, and the guy
Wait, I
shit
don't
on.
think I've heard that part before.
Yeah,
See,
so
every time I talk to somebody, there's a new detail
yeah,
emerges. It's so
log
fascinating to me.
Log Sagoth was a Cthulhu type character that was sort of squiddy, and
Right.
he was the pizza delivery guy. And he came out, and they were like, "Well, what about the special
Huh.
sauce?" And he's like, "Okay," and he takes a big shit on the pizza, and then that's the special sauce. But yeah, it's it's just one thing
I'm
after
telling
the other.
you, the Gwarchives would be a hit amongst
Oh
fans.
man, yeah, those early shows were very cool, and there was a lot of, I always it's a shame that we've lost so much of the footage from some of the earlier shows that we had filmed. We had that wrestling show that, still, one of my favorite parts of that was that Sleazy would come out and he goes, "I've been accused of, fixing fights for my boys, and I want to make sure to tell everybody that that's not true." And he's like, and then he's like, "Just to prove it, I got a contender for executioner notice that is top notch, right? Like, I found her out back.
This is the bag lady.
Yep.
Wait, you lost that show?
Yeah, we don't have, like, we had actual, like, footage of like, there was a few camera shoots of that tour, and it was the funniest fucking shit, because I mean, that
You're
all of
killing
the
me.
gags, all the stuff from that
All
show
right,
was
I
just
wanna.
too funny, because then he goes, yeah, like, what's oh she I found her out back, she's blind, she's crippled, and then Scott
She's
Crawl, a couple of,
homeless,
no, she go
and
he Scott
she's
yeah, Scott Crawl would tap him on the shoulder and go, "Hey, you're supposed to be a tag team match," and then he'd go, "She's pregnant,"
yeah, dude.
and then
Well, I gotta tell you a story, but before I have to ask, like, how do you feel about bootlegs being out there, like
well,
from the old days?
I mean, like, in the old days, it was infuriating, because that was the
Right.
only other way that we could make extra income to support some of the things. Like, Hunter was diligently trying to put out stuff
Yes.
to
Right.
fund some of the departments, and it did in the earlier days. Like, that was how we funded all this. Like, Funnies was
Hmm.
doing the movies, doing the comics, doing the subscriptions to Mind Control Monthly. Like, that was all hand over fist money, and you see people bootlegging, and you're like, fuck. So he'd actually jump out, like certain points I'd see him leave the stage, and I'm like,
Yeah, he
what's he
talked
going?
about that.
He'd go attack a guy with a camera,
But he'd
you
wait
know.
till the encore, so he
Yeah,
actually gets the whole show first. Yeah.
yeah. He
Yeah.
started doing that later, because he
Mm,
realized, he's like, oh, if I confiscate the tape, then I have the whole fucking show, and they filmed it for me. But then
right.
you had all the dildos who were like, I found a zoom on so I'm zooming in, and then there's Danielle's butt, and then there's, Dave's face, and, oh, the cuttlefish. You need to have a close up on this while Dirks is doing a guitar solo for sure. It was like, like,
Right.
but again, you had some sort of archive of it. But yeah, it definitely was tough, because it was double-edged sword, because you're like, well, most of those shows are in the ether. It was just
Mhm.
remembered by the people who saw them. Um, because like there's no footage of some of those shows, so
Oh man, well that break. Okay, so here's my story. Well, for reference, I got into Gwar in like I guess around 1994, 95. Because here's my reference of time is that the first Gwar album I bought day of release was Ragnarok.
nice.
So the latest release, like basically, and I thought this was a deep catalog. Those 4 records, I was like, that was my, what I was getting into all at once. And so
Mm-hmm.
this Toilet Earth is my favorite.
It's a good.
And I was like 10 years old. Okay, so I went to no, I turned out okay, I think. I'm almost 40 now, so it's all good.
That's
No
good.
criminal record or anything. So uh, I was brought to a record convention, which was new to me. Everyone just selling like crazy, records and tapes and all sorts of stuff. And I saw a Gwar tape, and I have to admit, it's probably the only bootleg I ever actually bought was that wrestling show.
Oh yeah.
And it was one of my first references to what Gwar was like outside of the official releases, which was not that much to that point.
Right. Right.
And it blew my mind to this day. That is still my favorite Gwar show of all time. It was
It's a good
Cleveland,
one.
Ohio. It's all those gags. It's got a green jelly line in it.
Yep.
And to this day, like that's my all-time favorite. I've worn my tape out so much that it's like hardly plays anymore. But there it is out there. But
Yeah,
just
I
hearing that
mean,
there were other
yeah,
like
that's
there's
the
like
tough
professional
part.
recordings of
Yeah.
those.
Well,
that-
because like we had bought a few scoff cams and we were filming as much as we could in those days. We were like, that's where a lot of the footage of like us on the school bus and that kind of stuff came from, was because Melanie and some of the people who had the scoff cams would just run them. So we'd actually get like footage of us on the bus and backstage and stuff like that. And
That's great.
but some of those shows we were recording, and then as recorders got a little bit more affordable and stuff, we would the band would spring and buy, at that point, the high end cameras were pretty expensive.
Mhm.
So we'd buy one of those to have like real good footage and have our establishing shots at least be pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
know?
because Gwar is such a visual feast, of course.
Yeah.
So wait,
And
what happened to those tapes? Oh, I don't know if I
well,
want to hear this story.
some of
I
them,
heard Hunter talk about his tapes being lost, although
that's where
Bob
a good
might have
yeah,
them.
Bob has some, and then we've cataloged whoever had personal stuff. So we're slowly collecting as much footage and as much stuff from those times, because we actually just luckily a friend of a friend of a friend reached out to Casey, and we actually got back the original the Skullhead face 35 millimeter print reels.
No
So
way.
we got a good majority of those back.
Wait,
We already
the edited project or like the raw
no,
footage?
we had the edited project, but we didn't have that. So like all the cuts and the B-roll and all that other stuff, that stuff was what we got back just like I think about 2 weeks ago we got that stuff back. And
all of it?
yeah. Well, I still need to look at it, but it was like 20 something rolls of 35 millimeter film.
In theory, this film could be like reassembled.
Well, so yeah, we had talked about it because Don had always wanted.
I
to
know.
take
I brought
pass
this
at
up
it.
to him, and actually, I brought this up at one of his regular live streams, just in the chat once, and I like totally depressed him. He was like, "Oh," it's like, "Uh-oh, I really hit a nerve." Because
Well,
I gotta say, like Skullhead face, if Gwar didn't exist at all outside of just this one B movie,
right?
I think that's like one of the. This should be celebrated as like a cult classic more, than just like a Gwar footnote.
Should. No, it really should. And it was funny too because you
And
talk
it was
about
shot on film.
I know we did it on 35 millimeter. Who does that, right? And especially for back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Wait, I have my copy out. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was like
signed by Techno Destructo.
Nice. There you go. The VHSs.
VHS, my original copy from 1994.
Nice. I still have mine somewhere.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, I mean, it was sad to see that it didn't do as well as it could have done, and partly because I think Metal Blade really didn't know how to market that
Yeah,
correctly.
I want the midnight, movie
Yeah,
kind of treatment. That would have
they
been perfect for it.
they had all of that. It should have kind of been that circulation. Yeah, I mean, because considering that that whole movie had so many cool things in it, had we like a good example is like, okay, so we go through the whole process of creating the flesh column for the movie,
Right.
and we realized the way we were building it was ridiculous. And then,
Yeah, I heard it almost fell on somebody.
oh yeah, it almost crushed all the performers. It was like,
Yeah.
yeah, but we, it was like having the first meeting of how to do it in the show. Hunter goes, why don't you just do this? We'll make the body be the middle guy, and then one guy in each hand, and da da da. And if we'd had the stage version of that monster in the movie, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, that fight scene would have been
Yeah, I
amazing.
mean, it just stands there and just
Yeah, and they're having to attack it because it was
Yeah,
supposed to be able to move and stuff, but
right.
because of the weight and counterbalancing all the people on it and yada yada, it was like, there's no way this is gonna be like we're all back there trying to lift these
Well,
heavy
Hitler spits
hands and
or something.
yeah, he does. He shoots vomit and stuff. That was one of the funnier things in the live version of it because Don would put his hand. He had a like Hitler head puppet, and he put his hand in it and he'd wiggle it out through the mouth, and ultimately Danielle would go to kick it, and she'd either kick him in the hand or kick him right in the dick, and like he would tell her, he's like, "I'm
She
not."
does that a lot on that stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, so he's not wearing a cup in that. He
right.
never wears a cup. So he told her not to do it. He's like, stop doing it. And she's like, okay. Haha." And I see her lining up to do it. And I'm right behind on one of the guitar cabs. I climbed up on top of it because we're at this really small club playing there. And it was I was like, I'm just gonna get up here and hang out up on top of the guitar cab. And I'm watching her like line it up, and man, she kicked him right in the nuts. And then two fists come out of the mouth of the flesh column and start punching her, and the whole flesh column's going after her. And she's just like she's laughing as he's trying to punch her through the costume. It was just
That's great.
too funny. But yeah, those are the funny things that would happen with it. But anyways, yeah, the stage version would have made the movie a little bit better. But it was like all the stuff that we were doing on the fly. It was like that whole summer. I mean, it was like
I mean, the movie's a mess, but like it's a beautiful mess.
yeah, it's a
Like
beautiful mess.
it's my favorite probably. And like you were saying before, you kind of your favorite era is the one that you kind of got into it during. That was me right there. This
Yeah,
toileter skullhead face, like that's my favorite Gwar stuff.
yeah. There's a lot of
Well,
good stuff in there.
yeah.
You know?
And I hear you own this Toilet Earth. Is that true?
No, well, so we're working on getting a lot of the rights back, and a lot of
Gotcha.
the rights are sort of, you know,
Influx.
they're falling back to us and stuff.
Hmm.
We have quite a bit
What
of
is
the
it, like a
catalog.
30-year contract kind of
Well,
deal?
some of those are in this, cross collateralized, hopefully one day we'll get it back kind of situation.
Mm,
But if you're talking, hey, we were essentially spending all of our royalty money on making a movie, it's like, what are you gonna do?
mhm.
But yeah, we've got quite a bit of the catalog back now. Like we have a lot of it. That's
Nice.
why we've been doing a lot of the re-releases and stuff,
Yeah.
and trying to give the fans who didn't get some of the earlier records a taste of the earlier Gwar and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and to celebrate some of them,
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? I think it's a good time to read some comments. I've been
Okay.
neglecting you guys. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry
But we've
guys.
just been just like, I'm so interested. Let's see. This is going back all the way. All right. We got the what do you call it?
Barrister Orlock in the house.
What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
I know. I'm like totally it's that old like technology Victoria like
Steampunk. Steampunk.
steampunk.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is techno steampunk lawyer. I don't know why
Oh,
I forgot
cool.
that. I just like blanked for a
Hello.
second.
Hello, steampunk
Yes.
lawyer.
Oh God, I anticipate caffeinated regret. Yo, I'm buzzing, man. Like a Sawborg. Bzzz. All right.
Yippee.
Yippee! I have my notebook ready for Destructo lore. Okay, yeah, we'll get to some of that too.
Okay. Yep.
Don't worry. Yeah, Dread
Dread
Zeppelin.
Zeppelin.
They
Yep.
were pretty fun. Tool opened for them in the early 90s. Yeah, I
Yes,
bet. Yep.
that's right. Yep.
Because those guys were from the Green Jello camp.
Yep.
Humongous Fungus is here.
How you doing,
You
man?
gotta get him on the show. He does his 3-hour streams too.
Yeah, he's a beast on those.
How do you
too.
feel about these renegade scum dogs? Like there's Humongous Fungus and all these
Hey, you
fun
know, like
characters running around.
that's part of Gwar's
You're very
greatness.
what's the word? I'm forgetting words now. It's the Espresso Destructo, man. It's just crushing my mind. You're very inspiring to people.
Oh, good. I'm glad. That's good. Good.
The Book of
That's
Lies, yeah.
that's definitely what we
Oh,
like to
Hunter
do.
is here.
Oh
Hello.
yes, nice. The Book of Scoffs.
Yes.
Don Dracula's the big book of Scoffs.
I gotta get you to sign my book like that. Yeah.
The big book of Scoffs.
Bludgeon my head on it multiple times, and I get it from the LT. Oh, I thought you meant LGBT, but I was like, I think that could be the same book. Techno
in the house.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, Cliff is here. Awesome.
Hey Cliff, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I got some artwork to show you later too.
Oh yeah. Hell
John
yeah.
Poppy's here.
Hey man.
What do you? Okay, we gotta talk about toys
Yeah,
too. See,
yeah,
there's
his
still
figure's
lots
amazing.
of. Are you still in the band Gwar? I don't know. Did something happen?
Yeah, as of 3 o'clock now.
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll see after this interview happens.
Yeah.
No. I'm not trying to gotcha anybody. The audiobook, I gotta fucking find it in my email. It's lost in my email somewhere. No.
Yeah, see, he's saying it's funny. See, ha 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 ha.
I got my Blothar bobblehead, so.
Oh, that's good.
Can you
Yeah,
do
because
comments?
a
Yes,
lot
I'm
of
doing
those
comments.
Yeah, sorry guys, we definitely left you
Yeah,
hanging.
yeah.
That's a lot of
Okay,
stuff.
like we got
Oh,
heroes.
when heroes roam the earth, yes. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, you can get that at the techno store, House of
That's right.
Huntar.
Go to House of Huntar, pick it up.
I
It's
have mine in
freaking
my
beautiful.
cave over here. Sawborg and little Raspy deserves a raise.
Yeah.
Oh, whoever decided whose idea was that?
So when we talked about it, me and Dirks and actually Bishop, I think, proposed, like, we were talking about a little spokesperson to be, like sort of the narrator of the book, and I think it might have been Bishop proposed a platypus, and we thought, oh, that's great. And I found this picture of this little teeny baby platypus, and so I drew a quick sketch of him. I was like, yeah, he's going to be great. And then as we kept going with the story, we thought, how funny would it be that, like, Sawborg's going to try to download himself into this badass cyborg body to go into the other reality, and Raspy confuses, and he prints himself out as a little teeny platypus version that gets his ass kicked the entire time. So
if you had plushies of that thing, like, it would sell like crazy here.
Speaking of that, there's a possibility of that happening. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about toys. Okay, I got a bunch of topics we gotta talk about. I remember Slave Pit Funnies.
Yep.
I can't find my issue 1, but I'm pretty sure I have it somewhere. MC Rhythm List, come back, make a comeback. Slave Pit Singles, yes. My originals, I got them when they came out. Prestige was my first Gwar show. I never got to see the Prestige, but I saw the modern day version of it, a couple years ago.
Right. Which it didn't even really do it as much justice as the original. The original was just so good.
Well, I feel like because it was so new, that idea, like nobody was expecting that at the time. Great to see Pete do something. Yes.
Yep.
X-Cops are great. We have, me too. Very clever. Yes. Lots of comments. This is great. I never understood the hate for We Kill Everything. I mean, it's got some of my favorite Gwar stuff on it, and it's got some of my least favorite Gwar stuff on it.
Right, which that's kind of
But you know what I love about it is, part of and here's what I love about the new album, which I think is the next topic we're gonna get into. Um, I'm a bass player, so when I got into Gwar, like Mike Bishop's bass sound was like crucial to the Gwar sound.
Yeah.
And so hearing that come back and also on We Kill Everything is like that makes it sound more like Gwar to me
Yes.
personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like you can tell when that dude's playing. It's great hanging with you and Hunter at the LA show this past year. If you ever need the services of the great barrister Orlock, I will be glad to offer my legal services.
I
Hunter
will
as
be.
I mean Techno as a reference.
That's awesome. Yes, I will. I will definitely be needing you for
V-
bail money. No.
Yeah, right. We're gonna do some crimes after this
Yeah, we're
show.
gonna do some crimes.
Vinny's here. He's wearing a Gwar shirt. I saw it.
Hey.
I can attest to it. Is there footage of the Stone
Oh,
Pony fiasco?
I don't think so. I mean, I know that
When was that? I've filmed some things at the Stone Pony before.
it was a big brawl. Like we got into a ginormous fight, and like I think
I think I heard
everybody
this
got into
story.
that.
When about was this?
uh, Let me think. Oh, I know. It would have been Carnival because of the penguins. We
Okay.
had the penguins, and
So
Bonner
about
actually,
97.
yeah, Bonner sprayed the opener band, who was like a hardcore band. He sprayed them and their girlfriends because he saw them standing on the side stage, and those guys immediately stormed the stage and grabbed Bonner, and Bonner's like fighting three of them
Oh
off. So then, of
no.
course, I just see the band. Like I think it was Pete or somebody came. I was putting my Robo Sleazy pants on, and I go, "What's happening?" And I like had to run out there, and I got pushed off the stage. We fell off with a bunch of people, and we're brawling out in the crowd. And then I'm trying to get back on stage, and it's obvious I'm in big rubber pants with big rubber
Yeah.
shoes, and the bouncers are like trying to hit everybody, and they're like getting ready to smack me, and I'm like, I'm in the band, stop, you know.
Oh man.
It was,
New Jersey is crazy, man.
oh man, our guitar tech got punched out. It was bananas, man.
That's nuts. Matt captured the sleazy cadence so perfectly. I'm dead.
No.
So you have a career in voice acting if this Gwar thing doesn't work out.
Yeah, something's got to pan out one of these days.
I know, right? Still waiting on that career move. I got into
Yep.
Gwar when I was 9, not far off from you. Yeah,
Oh, that's good. That's
I
good.
mean, it's fun. You know, Beavis and Butthead was around at that time and stuff like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Actually, probably the first time I ever saw Gwar was in the movie Mystery Date.
Oh yeah.
Were you there for
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So like that was right at because what was it? Mystery Date and
Empire
the
Records.
Empire Records. Those were the first. So like Empire Records, I'm actually in that scene,
Right.
pushing Mark in the
Hell yeah.
maggot and stuff. But yeah, it was all like, you know, I was around, and I was like always in the background at that point, kind of hanging out.
Mhm. Oh, so you hadn't joined the band yet?
No, I think that because like so back then we had this sort of like satellite slave kind of thing where like you were doing slash stab smash crash cush comes through.
Yes,
Smash
yes.
that button, smash
Everybody
that
watching
button.
right now, if you're watching
Like,
right now, hit that
subscribe,
like.
like,
Yes,
subscribe.
and subscribe. You know, come on, help me fight the algorithm here.
Yeah, come on, man. Um, yeah, it was there was a time period where like you were doing a lot of the stuff, even if you were in the shows. It was like I think even Don was the one who said, "Hey, you know you're in the band, right?" Like I didn't even at that point.
We'll
It's
get
like
to this.
you know didn't know it was even a thing.
Oh, do you have a number system like Green Jelly does?
No, we had this thing. It was funny because I always talk about some of the newer people when we're talking about, look, you didn't have to go through some of the hazing that was going on back then, where it was like, you're an amoeba, then you'll get to maggot, then you might make it to slave. You know, it's like what?
Gotcha. Yeah, you guys had the maggots before Slipknot. Just putting
Yeah,
that out there.
yeah, for sure.
Here's a nerdy question for you. We love these nerdy questions. In your early days in Gwar, what was your slave name before donning the Mattron mask?
Well, I didn't really have one, you know, because originally I didn't know what to do as far as like if I wanted to see my face or have my face like Scott and Bonner and yeah, I mean like Hunter had like the little Zorro mask he'd put on, and
Right.
when he would just be his slave character, and then I think he
But
had
he was
one of
still
the.
techno even as that character, though.
Well, he had that slave persona where he
Oh,
had like the
right.
dick, and he
Yeah,
had
that's right.
but
I'm thinking of the Mind Revolt tour where he is the
yeah.
slave.
Then he kind of graduated into just being the techno slave
Mhm.
as the slave, but he had that. It's
Right. Yeah, it was in
Cracking the egg. Cracking the
mhm,
egg's a good
mhm,
one where he's got the
exactly.
fake hand and he's
Yeah, he's got
feeding
the
baby
bone, right?
Gore.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that was sort of so. Only person who sort of had a mask as a slave was Bobby, who had the muzzle, right? And
Mhm.
originally, I wasn't gonna put on a mask. I was gonna just keep doing different face paint and stuff. And I had sort of like an idea that I was sort of robotic, where I had like the little, joints in the
Yeah.
mouth and stuff. But uh, as it happened, like I said, that first trip, I came home with two black eyes and fat lips. I said, let's think about a mask. So
Yeah.
my first incarnation, I just did like it was like 3 strips with the little venting, and it had just a strip here. And Chuck would inevitably have this little short sword. He would like hit me right across both of my eyes with the little sword. So that's why the little crunk, the little bit was like. So if at least he does that, it just hits one. And then the
Is
mask
it
sort of.
soft in there? Like,
Yeah, so
okay.
so it's foam and latex, so like
Yeah, that's
it.
kinda like what my chicken head masks were like.
Yeah, and see, so that's the thing, right? Like these things, some of the design was just to be cool, but some of it was function because
Right, right.
we played a lot of shows back then in small clubs, and they allowed beer bottles and glass, and they would throw them at your head and try to hit you in the head with them, or there'd be stuff like that. So the plates up here just kept going further and further back till it covered my whole head because I was getting hit in the head with beer bottles and steins and shit like that, and I was like, I'm tired of getting stuff thrown at me. So now
Yeah.
it's like you get hit in the head with this thing, and you're like, it's just. And then the big bolts were for ear protection because I'm
Mm,
standing right next to a
right.
cab, and it's like on 11, and it's like
Yeah,
always, and
yeah, sure.
so.
Rachel, I'm gonna get your question at the end. That's an ending question. That was either my first or second show, the Stone Pony shows. That's cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that was a good
They
one.
want the little Raspies. You got an
He
audience here. Everyone's
he's
up to
coming.
it.
He's
And
coming.
that and the Gwar babies from Skullhead Face, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
That,
And there's. Oh, let's see.
Can you tell a story about the slave getting blasted off stage, right? That got caught on fire. What?
That story. Oh, when let's see which one. Oh, you're talking about when. Okay, so via that first couple of shows, right, that I was involved in. So the skit was Bobby was dressed as a kid, and we didn't have Don to do sleazy, so for some reason Odorous wanted to shoot the shotgun. So we had Santa Claus and we had the kid, and Bonner was this drunk questionable Santa Claus that was trying to molest the kid.
Isn't there a
And so
photo of that in the book?
I don't remember, but
Let's see if I can find it while you're talking.
but usually Dave Muscle packed the pyro for the chest explosions, for the gun, and for the reaction of the shooting the guy in the chest. And Bobby would wear those, and Bobby he's like, oh, while he's watching Bonner, Bonner's just taking E-tape and wrapping it around the charge, and he's like, are you sure you're doing that right?
Hmm.
And of course, not understanding that the tighter you wrap it, the more of a concussive explosion is going to create. Bobby literally, I mean, it was like arms and legs, flew from the blast. You could feel it from the stage. He flies off the stage and his shirt catches on
Oh
fire.
no.
And it was our buddy Jeff Romano. He was standing there and he just had this cigarette dangling like this. And he just looked at Bobby and he took the spew and started putting him out. As Bobby's like, ah, and he's just spraying the spew at him. It was like, but it was, I think Bobby got caught on fire like 2 or 3 times with that rig.
Oh man. I don't know. I can't find it right now. There's so many pictures in this damn thing.
I know, but yeah, like it
Which
was
is
it
great.
was
It's great
it
though.
was funny because it was a bait and switch. Like you think Odorous is going to come out and shoot Santa Claus, and he's like, "Hey, get away from him!" And then he shoots the kid instead of Santa Claus.
That must have been in like the 80s, right?
No, that
Early
was
90s?
it was early '90s. Yeah,
Okay.
it was that whole time period.
What are some of your artistic influences?
Oh my goodness, there's quite a few. I really, I gravitate towards the old stuff with like, Jack Kirby, of course, and some of those comic book artists in that time frame. But I like a lot of the, Mobius and those guys as well. Man, you gotta, you know, you wouldn't have a lot of modern stuff without those guys for sure.
All right, we're almost through them. Yo, yeah, all of us want the Gwar plushies. We all want those ever since we saw that movie.
I
Yeah,
know, right? The
I know,
Gwar
I know.
babies are great.
Yeah. Who made those?
So our the manager at the time, Liz Fairbairn, she made it the like Hunter did. Hunter took all the ideas because we all sit there and drew little Gwar babies, and Hunter took them and
Mm-hmm.
truncated them into the animated versions to do the animated bit, and then me and Bobby and some other people helped them do all the animation, which was
That was cool. Yeah, we want the Gwar Babies cartoon for real too,
Yeah.
of course.
Oh, I know, right?
Okay. All right, so let's talk about more current. Let's skip around to the current days.
Mm-hmm.
Where's my slideshow? Ta-da, the new
Oh, there
album.
you go. Yeah.
I argue that this is actually the best Gwar album.
The best all the way around. You
Yeah,
think
I mean,
concept?
like I say, like I said, probably this Toilet Earth will always be my favorite because it's like the nostalgia factor and there's like it's just so unique. But if I were to introduce somebody to Gwar now, I'd
Turn 'em
probably
onto this
just
one.
give them this.
That's a good one. I mean, there's a lot of burners on this
I think so,
record.
yeah. I mean, it's basically the classic lineup, musician wise, Bishop's on the bass.
Yep.
It's a cohesive storyline. It's definitely the best produced ever. Ronan Chris Murphy's like killing it with your production.
Yep.
Okay, so here's my question. And this relates to the comic book and everything too. Is Gwar woke?
No. The whole thing about this, right? It's funny because even in the book, we're trying to show all the different sides. The fact that the alt reality is all the ridiculous shit that people are fixated on constantly and bombarded with, and the fact that hey, one of the main characters is an algorithm. He's a scumdog algorithm that's just out there to try to say, hey, look,
Yeah.
I'm trying to give you what you want, but you crazy fuckers don't know what the fuck you want. You're asking for all of this stuff and you think it's all real and you want it to be all real or, whatever. And the fact that it is, trying to bring light to the fact that, yeah, this reality may be difficult, but the reality that you think you're living in or trying to live in the virtual world isn't any better, and the fact that like these characters are especially the Rasputin, the Mad Monk character, I find like I was talking to Dirks about it. I was like, hey, with Chat GPT and all these
Right.
AIs
I
that
was
they're
gonna
out
say
there, I
that
was
like
like,
now we
and
got that going on.
he's already out there.
Yeah.
He's out there and he's doing his thing, and I was like, I really want to tie more stuff into that with the character because Raspy's great and he's
Have you
fun.
done any Gwar AI art? Because I have.
No, I haven't. I was thinking about. I started.
Go to that mini. What's it called? Dali Mini, and
Uh-huh.
just like look up Gwar, and it's pretty
Nice.
impressive.
Awesome.
Like be worried. It's coming for you too, man.
No, look. The thing about
They
it
can't
is that,
produce foam and rubber yet. Well, if
yeah,
you
but
connect it to a 3D printer, who knows?
right, exactly, right. No, I sit there and say it's the funny science fiction self fulfilling prophecy that we're just gonna gleefully go into the jaws of Skynet and all that shit, willingly because we're just goofing around. How many?
Yeah.
Let's type in some stupid shit in this AI and see what happens. What would happen if you try to take over the world?
It's an interesting question.
But
I
yeah.
could see Techno or maybe Sawborg like
Well, I already
trying to use ChatGPT in the next door to try to figure out how to finally defeat Gwar.
No, that I was typing. I was like, speak from an alien cyborg point of view.
Let's see.
So
Gwar isn't woke. I don't know. Some guy wearing sunglasses sitting in his truck with his Blue Lives Matter Punisher t-shirt tells me otherwise. Do you get a lot? Have you gotten a lot of this kind of backlash? I ask it more as a joke. I don't think so.
no,
but
because the thing is that you talk about.
I also talked to Don, and I don't know if he you know.
Well, the thing is, like everybody's gonna have their opinions and their ideas, and Gwar, I think, has always been like a platform. It's just like South Park, where
Yeah,
you can discuss
whatever's out there, you're
anything,
gonna make fun of it.
everything, and anything. There's not, one way or the other to be. It's just like we're just trying to incite a discussion about it, because if to try to put it in an artistic term, to go, okay, art always inspires or questions those bigger things about humanity, right? Like,
Mhm.
the Guar's a perfect vehicle for it, because we're these aliens trying to understand humans, and it's a
Yeah,
creation. They're bastard creation. They're like, oh well,
right. Right,
they're
the
part of
humans
us,
were, yeah.
but we don't even understand them. And at certain points you want to go. That's why I think, even in the I think it was Orgasmageddon, I had the scene where even Gwar gets almost like OJ's murder was too much for them, to be like, look, the veracity of OJ killing his wife, was like, oh, that's a little too much for Gwar, like, to sit there and
Mhm.
go, oh, that's just like,
Yeah, I guess it's an interesting question to pose someone who's been involved so long, but what is the moral compass, you know?
well, I think it's to just say, look, you can keep pushing the envelope to the point, like, okay, at certain points we've definitely went too far, and is that wrong? I don't know. Like, at certain points, can you say that you're trying to shine a light on the beauty and the horror of humanity? All the stuff that
Mhm.
happens, right? Life is a weird experience, and the fact that we all have to kind of go through this together is, I mean, it's an interesting thing that you have to, you know, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think that we always have had it in our minds to go, what are we going to do to try to incite a bigger thought on this topic that, is a normal human thing,
Yeah, yeah,
and how to have those discussions in a way that, a lot of times we try to take it from a funny viewpoint, you know.
yeah, of
Uh,
course.
I always harken back, like we were talking about, uh, the scene in Fallacy, or yeah, it's Fallacy in Wonderland, where Odorous goes and he goes and he murders the kid in the bathroom, and how it changes to you have this crazy music video thing that's all bright and colorful, and then we went to this noir look that Odorous looks like a scary demon, and he's going into the bathroom, and it's a horrific kind of Nosferatu-y kind of scene,
Mhm.
and he just straight up murders the kid in the fucking bathroom, and even Beefcake is like, oh, that's like too much, man. Like,
Right.
the fact that we show the horror, or the fucked upness about, life, is, there's a lot of shit that's tough.
I mean, that was one of the most classic moments of Gwar, I think, is that "Have You Seen Me" recording
Yeah,
when that discussion, and I believe I've heard Mike Bishop talk in interviews that that was an organic thing that happened on stage, that wasn't planned, right?
yeah,
And, like, that's kind of the fun of Gwar, is that you kinda do push it a little too far, and then it's
yeah.
like, and then you kinda question it, but in good fun, right?
But yeah, like, if you sit there and you go, okay, discussing things with, also having a malice, or having an intention to hurt
Mhm.
somebody or to harm somebody, is one thing. To sit there and go, I'm just trying to bring light to a situation that's uncomfortable to talk about or address. I should have every right to do that. That's what freedom of speech is all about. And that's what you want to be able to do as a human being, to just go, let me express myself.
And
And, and,
actually, yeah.
and at a certain point, right? Like, you sit there and go, okay, well, I've gotten, uh backlash back and forth. Some of the guys in the band are like, well, you can't say that on stage. He's like, you mean the 27 million times we've said it on stage before? Now you're upset about it, or now
Mhm.
you think it's a problem? I'm like, if you get to the point where you let the masses sway what you're trying to do, then that's when you're not doing
Right.
it justice anymore.
'Cause I mean,
So
the ultimate joke of Gwar is that they are the most horrific people on the like,
well,
in the world, right? And, like, it's
yeah.
like you're mad about alien monsters, of course we're gonna be terrible, right? That's the joke.
Well, considering that you're like, they're the fucking deadbeat dads, man. You know, like they're not. They
Yeah,
don't
the
care
human
about
race.
the
Yeah.
human race. They don't. They don't give a shit. It's a side effect of Slyminster not having sex with them. So
Hmm.
they don't give a fuck. Serve me, fuck me, do whatever, but get out of my way. You know, like that's their thing. But you know, to sit there and also have all these foibles and imperfections and things that are inherently in these characters, because they're all flawed. All of them are flawed. There's none of them that are perfect. And you know, you think that the Destructos would have gotten it right at one fucking point to get these
Yeah,
dogs out
they're
of there.
definitely flawed. Yeah.
You know, but does that mean the master's flawed? And does that mean the universe is flawed? Does that mean, you know? So you know, that gives
Hmm.
you the bigger thing, because I think people get caught up in the minutia of life sometimes, and that's what I think. It's always been one of my things about the stories that I try to write, or the things that I try to, you know, inject into Gwar, is to ask those bigger questions, or those bigger things about, you know, humanity in a whole. Because you know, I do think we spend a lot of time on a lot of useless shit that, or and a lot of energy on stuff
You mean
that
in general?
in general, yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there's a lot of stuff like subterfuge on, you know, political views or religious views or things like that. Just like, oh, man, who gives a fuck, man? Like, just look at it like this: if you're looking at the grand scope of Gwar, right? These aliens landed on this fucking mudball planet that everybody is inhabiting, right? You're stuck on this planet in this giant galaxy floating through the fucking vastness of the universe. Is it really a big deal that somebody fucked up your coffee? You know, like,
You mean my
right,
espresso destructo?
right. You know,
I blame you
yeah. So
and Bozo. Techno's not on the design.
that's the thing. You know, I wish it was. You
Yeah,
know.
I just noticed that when I brought it back up. Well, I was gonna say about the new album and then tour and the comic and everything involved. Is that's another reason why I think it's one of the best Gwar albums, is because it does. I think it accomplishes those goals. Like, it does. You know, Gwar was always a mirror to what was happening, and you know, bring it out and beat it up, and like that's exactly what this is. It's like if
Hmm.
you're mad, like be mad at society, you know, for having this shit. I don't know. And I
Be
also,
mad at not doing better. Be mad at
yeah,
not being a better person. Be mad
right.
at not trying harder, or just giving up. Like, be mad at that.
Yeah,
Like,
like the fact that I'm assuming because of his fascination with the history, Mike Bishop's take on like the new Dark Ages in general, like this all is cyclical. Like, what are you
hmm,
doing? Like, just think about it. I think that's like to point that out and like do your research of history is like kind of brilliant.
yep.
Um, and also, I was gonna say, like, it's so funny when people do kind of attack. I don't know, try to make an argument about like, oh, Guar's gone woke or whatever they're saying. It's like they just ultimately, when you argue with them, it's they just want more baby raping jokes, and it's like,
Right,
dude, this album had one of the best ones of Guar's career in it,
right,
so like, shut up.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
there's not
and
enough.
that's the thing. It's so funny. We were talking about that the other day, where even on the comic project, there's the Comet Pizza reference. You know, they're going to get they're drinking the adrenochrome from the live babies, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, so you get to that part in the comic, and you're like, okay. So we had a color blocker that was working on the project, and he up and quit the project because a part of it got too offensive. And I was like, so you got through the adrenochrome baby drinking part, but then, you know, Pusty getting his dick sucked by Hitler was too much for you. Like, I was like, what?
Yeah, that's a weird line to draw.
I was like, that's what is weird about like how what people will take offense to. And I'm like, but again, you know, is that really a bad thing? You know,
Mhm. Right.
you know.
Let's see. I know most members have one or two things. Has Gwar done anything, joked about anything that was too far for you personally?
No, like I've never, you know, if I had ever been offended enough to be like, no, that's too far. It's no, not me personally. No, I know that there's been some guys in the band who've had stuff that's been uncomfortable, but but I've never been like offended or anything by what we've done,
Right.
or even what some people propose. When you get there and you're like, that's where you want to go with that, But
Right. Humongous says, I asked AI about Humongous Bungus Urungus. Oh my fuck, it was a riot. It's practically described that green asshat bone snapper. He said he sang for Gwar. Yeah, I guess here's a question. Like, is it weird for you being so involved with the group that like most people who are casual listeners only listen to the albums and you're kind of not represented on there?
Well, that's the thing. Like, if that was why I was doing it, I would have quit a long time
Right,
ago.
right. Yeah, sure.
Because like, really, when it comes down to it, I love Gwar. I've always loved the project. I thought it was a great project, and I've also tried to do it justice for the people who have come before me and who have helped create this amazing project.
Are you the wait, you might be the longest running member of Gwar almost.
No, it's me. So actually, it's funny because the competition was Dirks and Brad,
Brad,
right?
yeah.
But Dirks had to opt out because he got sick, because he was initially the longest.
I mean, but he didn't
I
leave the
know.
band.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But don't ask Brad that, because Brad will say, "But he didn't make those shows, so I did more shows."
Yeah.
But it's right now, yeah. Me, Bobby, Brad, and Dirks are like the
Right. Oh
four.
yeah, Bobby probably is actually the
Yeah.
longest.
Well, no, it's actually Dirks or Brad,
Really?
one of the two. Yeah, because
Oh,
they
okay.
they never they never left after they joined. And
Oh, did Bobby leave at some point?
no, like Bobby joined a little bit after both. Well, I think he joined right when Brad did. I think it was about the same time. So him and Brad are probably neck and neck. But I'm always looking at like the military. Once you're in Gwar,
Yeah.
nobody leaves it really.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And people kind of come back and
Yeah.
forth and
No.
bring back Father Bohab. Got to see the legendary butt bouquet in person.
That
Well,
was
didn't you see Trump last tour?
Yeah, that was Bohab's butt was
Yeah.
Trump's butt.
Hunter loved that gag, by the way.
Oh yeah, of course.
I was just wondering, the beginning of the show, the freaky looking monster that you cut off his head, are we ever going to get a t-shirt of him?
Of the beginning of
Which
wait
show? The new show?
of the new show.
I'm not sure.
Geez, I don't know. I'm not sure what that reference is. Can you be a little bit more specific?
Matt, who's your favorite comic book artist? Well, besides Hunter Jackson.
Yeah, he's a good one, man. In fact, I spent a lot of time looking at his shit. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I have so many favorites, and a lot of them are so inspiring. And I'll just go with Jack Kirby as the king, because he created so many fucking cool ass characters, and his style was definitely like what a lot of the archetypal type comic book styles came from. So, he's up there.
Is there any possibility of Hunter working on some future official Gwar comics? Because I know he's interested.
No, yeah, we talked about it. In fact, I really was bummed that, because when I laid out the book, there's a scene where I wanted him to do. I thought, how meta would it be to have it be a flashback within a flashback would be another style change. So I wanted him to do those 2 pages where
where he's fighting Odorous.
Yeah, I wanted him to do those, but he had some conflicts with time or something. I can't remember, but it didn't work out. But I'd love to have him in shit. I want to work on other projects with him.
Yeah, let's
I'd
do
love to
some
work
non-Gwar stuff too, guys. Yeah,
because dude, like the stuff that both of us have, like when he was working on Heroes, I still go, God damn, man, why the fuck isn't that a show? Why the fuck isn't that a movie?
Right.
Because he has so much story. He has so many stories from that to tell, and they're all fucking cool as shit. Like he's got somebody give this man some money to get that
know.
done.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I agree. All I can say is I'll buy it if it comes out, whatever it is. He has the Odorous baby in your collection. Oh, really? Is it part of the Gwar Museum?
Oh, did you get
Perhaps?
the Gwar pink?
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, I don't even know where that ended up.
Yeah, that's a good question. What are the tattoos on your chest?
Oh, they're terrible.
They just want you to take your shirt off. No.
Yeah, no, they're terrible. My first couple of tattoos were the ones on my chest. In fact, the funniest one is I remember I showed the I think it's the one on the other side. It's actually a Dragon Ball Z. It's Goku and Piccolo or Piccolo from Dragon Ball on the one side, and then it's a son on the other side. And a buddy of mine was trying to learn how to tattoo, and of course, you let your friend
like,
who has a
hey,
tattoo that turns into a little
free
blobby.
tattoo, right?
Yeah, they're my worst tattoos I have.
And we see them every night on your on stage, huh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I always like that Gwar is openly about objectively, irredeemably bad people, and that it's consistent about it. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like, you're always gonna want to stick it to the man, right? You're gonna be
Yeah,
like,
you
fuck
see,
them, like,
whoever's mad about you killing whatever current
yeah,
president, it's like, dude, you've been doing that since Reagan.
yeah. We
Get with it.
dug Reagan
Yeah,
back up to put him in the show.
exactly. But weirded out by people who fail to grasp the core concept. Yep, 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 yep. What's the inspiration for? Okay, I have a questions about Sawborg. Let's talk about Sawborg. First of all, yes, this question, and also, when did Sawborg become a character? I'm starting to forget, like, when he
around
entered the story.
around 2007, something around there.
No, I
Um,
think, let's see. Oh yeah. Well, I have this Lust in Space tour program, and you're
yeah,
in here, so.
yeah, because like, so
Oh
we
yeah,
had
that was a little later. That was like 2009.
yeah, we had talked about when we had went through the changing of the guard, so to speak, where like when Hunter left and when Chuck was gone and Don was participating on a part-time basis,
Mhm.
and Danielle had left and everybody was gone. It was like, okay, so Dave took the opportunity to be like, well, it's going to be the Otis Shurungus show, and
Right.
he'll be like Bob Barker, and we'll just call out the next fucking celebrity or politician. And there
That
was a
was kind of
bunch
the
of
violence has arrived era.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I like that we went more spooky and we tried to make it a little bit monstery or looking. And like our look, I would like how it went, but those shows, I just was like, God, they suck. This is just like, there's not enough meat to them. Like the older shows where you were like, okay, there's a context that's funny. It's not just through Otis's eyes. There's more characters involved. There's things that were more well rounded, And we went through that for a bunch of years, and it got to the point where we're like, this sucks because okay, you can't fucking do everything, Dave. If you're not going
Mhm.
to fight and kill the thing that's out there because you're trying to concentrate on singing the song that you're trying to sing, then the thing that's out there is just standing around like a jackass waiting for you to like slice its head off or do whatever the fuck you got to do,
Right.
and then you don't pay attention to it first. So it's like the reason this executioner was cool, the reason Slime Minister was cool, all these other characters
Mhm.
were cool. They had a background and they could do those things that Odorous
Right.
couldn't do. So we started slowly with Bone Snapper. Bone Snapper was, I think, even it might have been. It was a Halloween show. We built like the first puppety version. Like Bobby had this idea for it was a puppet costume we
Yo,
saw.
I think Bone Snapper's about old enough to drink.
Yeah, he's getting it. Well, he's getting there. He's getting there. It was really like the same time that I built the Bone Monster that only got used for a few shows,
Hmm.
and we went through some iterations of him, but then it was like, okay, so that Bone Snapper's out there, but there wasn't anything formidable enough to be like, okay, we weren't going to build a new giant Golgor, and we weren't going to do this, and we weren't going to do that. So then we were discussing like, why don't we bring the old archetype of having the Destructo or having the bad guy that can be out there on a regular basis. And I think me, Don, and Dave were talking about it, and it was like, well, the logical iteration would be is that Techno had the wrench and Bozo's got the hammer, so of course this guy's got to have a saw. And then we were
Hmm.
like just kicking around. I think Sawborg was just like the first jokey
Hmm.
name that we came up with, and it stuck. And it was like me and Don had very similar ideas of how he should look. So when we started drawing him, it was like, oh, you had the same fucking idea. So
Right.
the only difference,
Appliance as an arm,
yeah.
like.
And then, but we both thought the cool double saw blade
Oh,
mohawks. We both had that,
that's
and then
great.
he thought he should look more like a RoboCop, where you have just the visor. And I thought, well, then I lose expression in my
Right.
face
Right.
if I just cover up my eyes completely. And I didn't. I wanted to be more like Bozo because I played Bozo, back in the day
Oh.
on tours where Don couldn't do it. I did it, and I thought I wanted to be able to have that expression so that people could see my eyes and at least my mouth. And so I had those open. But yeah, I always thought if he was the guy who was sent in to get the guy who was sent in to get the guy, I thought, okay, that'd be funny if he was just like ultra serious war vet that was just like kind of fucked up because he's got, these saw blades are stuck in his brain. And initially I thought it'd be funny if he was kind of like he had Tourette's or something where he just randomly spout out words and shit.
Oh boy.
And I caught Dave off guard a couple times on stage by doing that, and he thought it was the funniest. She's like, "God damn it! Like you got me again!" Like he laughed in the he was like, "The fuck are you doing?"
Yeah, because it is kind of a scripted show, but
yeah, I would goof up and be like, "Fuck
yeah.
ass shit," like and yeah. So as he kind of evolved a little bit, like I thought, him coming in, but sort of having that he's the bad guy lurking in the corner that can kind of help out but not we're working on a subplot. That's why in the new book there's a phone call that happens and you don't really know why when Balsack calls Sawborg he shows up. Not yet anyways.
We'll find out in the next movie.
You'll find out later on. Yeah.
Yeah.
When the war fleet shows up in the next movie.
Right, exactly what I'm referencing. And it did. So
Yeah.
you made your promise,
Yeah.
That was good. That was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Techno.
Yes.
Can you see the foil cards?
A little bit. Yeah,
A
it's
little
kind
bit. Sawborg,
Yep.
Bozo.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about Toto.
He was a creation strictly for the cards because the guy who was working on the cards with us, he thought that he needed a little mascot guy, like a little just like an extra little guy to be in the background for the game itself. So it gives I think it was more of a numbers game. You needed a few more Destructos.
I don't know. I haven't actually played the game. I've only looked at it.
It's a fun game.
Yeah,
and
I
in
gotta
fact,
find people to play it with. You think
yeah,
maybe I could have a virtual game through this show? You think that would work?
yeah,
Yeah,
because
I'd have to actually read the instructions to figure it out.
it's
But
a deck builder game. It's a lot of fun because when we were watching, because we played it when we were doing the trials and we were playing it with each other, it's almost strategy to just fuck everybody. It's like it really gets you like, oh, how do I fuck everybody over
I mean, is
to
that the
win the game?
goal, or are you supposed to
There's
work together?
no. You are supposed to try to win by yourself, but
So it's
there's
like being
different
in war.
there's different, yeah, right. There's different ways to play it, and that's what's kind of cool about the system they set up is that you can use there's like a how like in a poker game the river where all the cards that you use to build your hand off of. That's the same kind of thing where you sit there and you go, oh well, if I set all these traps here then it just screws everybody at the end of the game, or if I take these cards and I get them all myself then I get all the points. And you see like immediately, like we came over to watch like the blind test when we did a premiere at Gen Con with it, and it was great, by the way. Like it was awesome. And then the goddamn pandemic came and fucked it
Yeah,
all up.
that's another reason. It's just like this came out during the pandemic, so who the fuck
Yes,
am I gonna play it with?
it screwed up the whole release. It screwed up
Yeah.
everything because
Well,
the blind test, all the stuff we did at Gen Con, man, the people were loving it, and the people who were playing it were immediately like, "This game's fun as shit." Like you just get into it, and you're like, the immediately watching people go, "Aha, my friend, I'm going to screw him over."
well, if we can figure it out, I'm calling it out to the audience right now. If you want to do an in-pod game, and if you want to be involved, anyone who can be involved,
yeah,
like you gotta teach me how to play it though.
yeah.
Also, what about
Yeah,
the
it's
Scumdog Bounty Hunters?
well, so
And there's
they were like the dickheads bounty hunters. We were gonna have like all these other sub characters that were like, okay, so of course there'd be bounty hunters who were hunting scum dogs to try to kill them or capture them or whatever to be in their armies, because the
I
scum
feel
dog
like those
armies.
guys can get a side story.
Yeah, all of them, like all of those characters, like we kind of did, you know, all the the Sphincter
Yeah, I love
brothers
that
and
too. Yeah, it's
all the
like
old stuff's in there.
it's
So
kind of like an archive. Just like
yeah,
I
and
like that it's just an archive of characters.
I tried really hard to like go and get like character drawings from the guys who like so Techno is drawn by Hunter, and I cleaned up the
Right.
artwork so it would work on the card and stuff. And I took like everybody's stuff. I try to make all the styles and have almost every Gwar artist is represented in the card game.
Mhm.
And I really wanted that to be a thing. And yeah, especially with all the new stories, man. Like the comics and the things give us the opportunity to tell the stories we can't possibly do in a movie or
Right.
or that stuff because of budgets and stuff. So.
Sawborg slave for life. Okay, let's see. How did Margaret become a member and
Well, in
and
typical
get her on the
fashion, she
show?
worked her ass off for
Yeah.
fucking a million years. Yeah, yeah. No, she's
So
she.
I did notice in recent releases that she's part of the slave pit finally.
Yeah, so she's been working with us for geez, it's 9 years or something like that. It's in the
Damn.
ballpark at the point. And she would work on painting props and helping build props, and then she got into
Oh,
working on commissions and things, and it got to the point where you know uh her I mean her paint style is great. I love seeing her color
yeah,
work
I
and stuff.
love her Instagram.
hmm and yeah, so she's been, yeah, like I guess it's been uh I would say a year and a half, 2 years, something like that at this point, something like
So
that.
does she have any interest in being on stage?
Well, she's come out with us on a few shows. Like she did the Scumdogs Live, and then she did a European tour with us. She did a Slaved Out for that, and then she's
Mhm.
done a few shows around. Like we did the
Okay,
drive-in show.
right, right.
She's doing like spew and running
Does
that
she
kind
have
of
a
stuff.
character?
It's like like a spew slave kind of character.
Hmm. That yeah, I'd love to see more of
Yeah.
that, dude. It's a sausage fest up there, you know.
Oh no, man! Look, dude, me and Dirks have been asking forever. Like without having.
I know you tried for a while, and
Yeah,
I enjoyed it for what as an audience member.
you
I
think
liked that it was a fresh idea,
but
however it
but
worked
but the
out,
fact of the matter is that we were very spoiled with Danielle because Danielle was a unique.
for sure.
It was tough to go like, oh, somebody who can deal with bring the creative force that she brought to the show, but also deal with just being the only girl up there and having all the bullshit happen and yada yada.
Mhm.
Yeah, the internet and all that stuff wasn't as big as it is now, but Jesus Christ, I know having some semblance of like you said, it's a goddamn sausage fest up there.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
So I came in kind of right after Danielle was leaving, so I think I may have seen the Bitches Back tour. I don't remember. I
Well,
might have been
that's the
there,
coolest. That
but
was
it's like, oh man, I missed that era just
well,
barely.
and that's what I always thought was cool about War was that yeah, one of the stronger characters up there is a female character,
Yeah,
and she could kick
absolutely.
everybody's ass, and that was what was really
Yeah,
fucking
and we
cool
love her
about
for that.
you know like that's how much power that character had, and to try to be able to retap it, like me and Dirks had talked about it, like, oh man, could we just get an all female version of Gwar that could go out, like,
Yo, that would be great.
we were like, fuck, because we could have so many cool characters and there's so many cool things that could happen. I was like, then all the dudes get beat up and shit,
Mhm. Yeah, I'm totally
yeah,
into it.
yeah,
I love this. You should mix the coffee and Techno's dark garlic death grip for the
ugh,
ultimate destruct. Here,
yikes,
this is my dinner tonight.
Blech, ugh.
Yeah, it's quite garlicky. I love that. Hail Gwar, what do you prefer, Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z?
I like all of it. That whole story was great, and I still love it. It's some of like Hunter's favorites too.
So I did have a call for art, so I figure maybe this is a good time to show you some fan art
Ooh,
of
yes, let's
Saba.
see
I'm
it.
sure you've seen a lot of these, but how do you like fan art?
I love
Mm,
it. In fact, I just reposted that one.
yeah,
That one. I love that shit. It is so cool. I mean, to see everybody's take and to see how they
This is
see the
Derelict
character,
Dum
and
Dum. Go follow all these artists on Instagram.
yes, please. They're great. Look at that stuff. It's so cool. That is so cool. Is
yeah.
that like a little is that sewn, or what is the other
I'm
one?
not sure.
That one's
It
great
looks like
too.
a pair of jeans or something, or like
That's
a
really
jacket, maybe battle jacket. I'm not sure.
Oh
There's
yeah,
another one.
that one's great. I like
I
the
want to know the
style.
story behind this. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the style, and I like the fact that they put the slave sword in the slave hand.
Is
It's
it
great.
accurate? This is the
Yeah, I
sword.
mean,
That's great.
yeah, that's the one that I usually use because that was like the smaller one that I had. Oh, nice.
They
That's
made a
for
Dungeons and Dragons. I don't see. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a bad nerd. But tell me if these numbers are good. I don't know.
let's see. Ooh, strength 12. That's not bad. Dexterity 15. Oh yeah,
Is
I'd
this
say that's
accurate to your
probably right.
character?
I'd say that's probably right. It's in the ballpark.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh, great. So I'm not that. I don't have that much wisdom or charisma.
Well,
Awesome.
that makes sense too, right?
Come
Charisma,
on.
maybe wisdom. Here's Gwar memes. Uh, yeah,
That's funny.
that's good.
Oh yeah.
Speak at
Let's
a
see.
normal volume or draw 25.
No, that's impossible.
I love how you're just drinking a Sprite there. My family has no concept of Indo voices and they only ever speak in caps. Yeah, that's the Destructo
Well,
clan.
yeah, you got to look at them like professional wrestlers. We all just sit
Hmm.
there and rant in the ether.
Oh boy. Yeah,
Look at that.
there's another. I guess you're very known for being very loud, huh?
Yes. Yep. No, because that's one of the other things I was like thinking that having him be, almost autistic in the sense of his. Oh, there you go.
Terra
That's Tara
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. She's another good one with colors. Look at that shit.
Yeah.
Look at
Also,
beautiful.
definitely follow her. So much. I don't know how they have time to produce all this artwork. It's nuts.
That's awesome. Yeah, I hadn't seen that cable
This is
one.
a
Oh
new one
yeah,
too.
yeah, that one's great.
Sean's part of the Gwar Museum, right?
That's from that. Yeah, that's from that photo shoot we did for the. Uh, I think it was for the. What was the
Decibel?
Hooker Christmas special? Or
Oh, really?
uh, oh, nice. Who did that one? That was great.
This is Satan's Carry On. This is a brand new one too, I believe.
That's
So
awesome. And you gotta
gotta
love
love that.
those spiral sketchbook. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
legit. It's a
Yep.
real pen to. Oh, and this one. Whoops.
Nice.
Yeah, it's from Art Ho Destructo.
Nice.
Yeah, so the Destructos live on.
Hell
Oh,
yeah.
and then of course I'm sure we got it because
Oh,
he's here
dude.
and he was a guest. Go watch my
I
show with
love his
John
shit. In
Poppy.
fact, I've been wanting to post. I did a little video when we met up. He was at a convention we did. Yeah, that
Mhm.
one's great. I took the little figures and did everybody's voices and kind of like
Oh
did a
yeah,
little
I think he
battle with
told
them.
you that story. And that's your
Oh, there
artwork.
you
All
go.
right,
There's
that's
my
done with the fan art.
my my
Okay,
nerdy
here's
my nerdy Dune
yeah,
reference there.
here's I know we're like probably should start landing this plane at some point soon.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
but I do okay, we got to talk about toys. A little bit more about toys. So Gwar has definitely been making some strides on the action figures front, right?
Yes. Yep.
I'm happy with I got my Odoruses. I got a couple of these in different colors. Um, did you ever think this was gonna happen?
Dude, that took forever to do, but
Yeah, I bet.
yes.
I've been
Yeah,
seeing this at the merch booth for years.
we yeah, I went through a lot of revisions and a lot of talking with them about it. It was a process, but those guys are awesome, and I'm glad that we finally got that done.
And here's a couple of them, but I got the rest of them back there. These
Knuckleheads,
little
yes,
guys.
they're great.
When are we gonna get the Destructo
They're
pack?
we're working on the
Because I
prototypes right now.
nice.
Yep.
That's
And then we've also talked about doing the retro figure, so like Odorous, Lemonstra, Sleazy, all
right.
them will be next. There are talks about actual figures in the pipeline, so
What
we'll hopefully have those
well
fairly soon as
I
well.
do want to, poke you about some of these because I grew up loving my muscle figures,
Yeah.
and I would love to see a Gwar universe.
Well, those are sitting on my desk still. They look exactly like that.
Yeah, I
But
bet.
I've revamped. I've cleaned up a bunch of them, and I'm trying to get them done to the point where if I can produce my own, like here's just this, pink, muscle man
Yeah,
vinyl
that's what
style look of them. That's it.
I would love
Um,
that.
I'm trying to get that together still. And again, it's always a thing of, hey, what's the next war thing we got to work on?
Yeah. Well, that's also another question.
Yeah.
What's the next Gwar? What's the news? What's going on in the Gwar camp, man?
Well,
What can you reveal?
it's rinse and repeat, man. Like
Yeah,
we're
I
already
know you got
starting to
some
work
summer
on new.
shows. You got your like festival stuff coming up.
Yeah, we got some touring coming up, and then we've got there's a lot of stuff that's really exciting that I can't really talk about yet.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, and we're talking like really fucking cool. That's coming in the pipeline, and the action figure thing is something that is it's about 99 point something percent coming, right?
What size? Are we talking GI Joes
Uh,
or Masters of the
the
Universe?
the proposed idea was play schools, or not playmates, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle scale,
Okay, yeah,
that kind of scale.
that makes
But
sense for Gwar.
that's something that we're
So
working
Bone
on.
Stabber's finally gonna be a turtle.
Yeah, he'll be a turtle. And then there's we're gonna start working on new record, and we've got ideas because even in the new comic we wrote, there's 3 or 4 different vines that can split off for different stories from that particular
Hmm.
story thread. And yeah, we're chomping at the bit to get more of those going. um, and I think I even, Hunter talked about his omnibus he was working on.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's exciting. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, me too.
um, and yeah, like we're just gonna keep churning it out, man. We're actually trying to figure out a way that we can release more music, and then I'm trying to get us back up and running in the live stream department for what we used to do, but
Yeah,
not.
those Gwar shows during the pandemic. Those
Yeah,
were great.
we're not going to be able to do the whole show, but we want to get the live streams back up and running, so at least we can, show little vignettes and show like
Hmm.
teaser premieres of videos and music we're working on, stuff like that. Um, and so we're trying to get that back up and running shortly as well.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff. I'm
I
actually been
know there's
working.
so much stuff.
I've been working on the new Gwar T-shirt design, so I've got
I've
that
still
coming.
never been there. Can you believe it? I haven't
Oh
made my
man,
pilgrimage. I
yeah, you got
know.
to make a pilgrimage
I
over
know. I
to it,
want to do it while you guys are not on tour, so maybe I could run into someone. You know what I
right?
mean?
Come on down.
Yeah, I gotta figure that out.
But I was
Speaking
gonna
of, yeah,
say
go ahead.
about the shirt you're wearing.
Yeah, who did this design?
I did,
I
and
knew it. I picked the
yeah,
right.
and it's funny because it was one of those things where I was like, I want to try to do something that like Simon Bisley might do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know.
That's awesome. I don't have a lot of Gwar. I mean, I have a large Gwar, lots of Gwar stuff, but like T-shirts are kind of like I can't even start that collection. There's too many of them. So I have
I
a
know,
few,
right?
but
Too many
it's not a
Christmas.
collection. Speaking of live streaming, I did want to ask you if you've ruined any phones by live streaming on stage every night.
No,
And
in fact,
have you in preparation for touring with that in mind, have you made like some little
well, no, it's
slots for
funny.
your phone or
No, it's funny because I don't know if people have seen me kind of run out there and set it up right before the show and get it all hooked up, and it's very standard. The only thing that's happened so far is that yeah, some spews hit it,
Mhm.
but in Blowfart at a smaller club, I hit the television set with the arm and knocked the phone off the riser, and it fell. So like people were making jokes about, hey, this is the ceiling version of the show,
I may
and
even watch that. It
yeah,
sounds
and then
vaguely
I
familiar.
think at one point I didn't realize it was on the floor, and I stood over top of it, so my butt's like right in the middle of the frame, and I was like,
Yeah, there's a
oh
lot of
yeah,
butts from that angle.
yeah, and that unfortunately that's been the thing, like trying to find a position where you can see the whole show, but like uh where I'll have power to run the whole show because
Hmm.
a
You
lot of
plug that
times,
thing in too?
yeah, because
Oh
because
wow.
a lot of times if I don't, then it'll run right up to like the last little bit, and you'll miss the encore, and it'll turn off
Mhm.
the power will
Right.
die.
I
So I'm like,
imagine.
so I've been trying to find ways. I think what I'm gonna try to do is set up a thing on the side fill so you get like a side view instead
I
of
was gonna say, I
the
wonder,
back.
like, when are you gonna put that into the design? You know,
Yeah, I
like
mean,
when is the spew cannon gonna have a little cell phone slot on it? You
well,
know?
we did GoPros for a couple shows where we had them on people, and in
Mm.
fact, I think on Whacking they gave me one of those 360 cams,
Oh wow.
and I ran out there and I had it in. I didn't get to see the final cut yet, but they said they put the edit of what I had, so I jammed it in. I jammed it in front of all the gore effects as it was
See, that's cool.
happening, and
Wait, is that a
yeah,
recent whack-in or back in like
yeah,
the
the
okay,
most recent one. We
gotcha.
they gave us they said, hey, could you go? They filmed the good majority of the set for Whacking. I mean,
Right.
they filmed the whole thing for the the jumbotron parts,
Mhm.
but
Right.
they gave us the cameras to supplement for the I guess the Whacking video cut or whatever. So yeah, it was cool. But there's yeah. I mean, it makes sense to put cameras on everything.
Yeah, mine I mean, the technology's there
Yeah,
now, like,
yeah,
we're talking about before with the bootlegs with the big VHS cameras, now you just have these tiny little things and they're all
yeah. You're
4K, it's
never
like,
ever gonna be able
"Dude."
to see them.
Yeah,
Or it's
uh,
funny. I think Hunter actually on
that's a
the
good idea for a next live video, like, just compilation of cameras from every show, I mean, come on, I
right.
know you guys have a click, so it's easy to sync together. Hey, Brad talks about it openly, okay? He's a professional.
Click? What's a click? I
I
don't know
don't
what
know,
you
I
mean.
think it's something it's like a I don't know. Some you have a character just like hitting a something the whole
No,
show.
you always hear Dirks in the ear. One, two, three, it's just like
That's
it's like
funny.
click, 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 click.
So I know it's about that time. I want to let me rapid fire some things at you.
Okay.
I did want to since I live in New York, I wanted to ask you a little bit about New York. I know you lived there for a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
I was working on a Broadway show.
That was my other question. What shows were you working on?
I did a bunch of stuff. I did this kid show called it was Crash Test Dummies. It wasn't the band. It was basically a show about a bunch of crash test dummies
Mm,
that did a bunch of crazy gymnastic stuff.
interesting.
And I built all the costumes with a friend of mine. She was working with them and in the show, and I built the giant. There was like this giant foreman character who was at stilts, and I built his whole big. He had very like a techno-y look to him, where he
Mm,
was all like mishmash crash test dummy put together kind of thing. Um, but yeah, we were doing that. We did the summer of that run on Broadway, and then I was working on some movies. I did Madison Square Scare Garden and that kind of stuff. But there was a bunch of stuff going on when I was living up there that was just amazing. I
real
was
work, huh?
yeah, well, I mean, it was fun because there was just so because like the city has so many opportunities, and I was doing some comic stuff. I was doing freelance art. I was jumping from art shows to. I think at that point, Bobby was actually showing it
Right.
in galleries there too.
What year was this?
It'd have been right. We left. We took that hiatus. I think it was like 2000,
Yeah, that sounds about right.
2001, because essentially that was the thing. Me and Bobby were up there for 9/11, and that's the reason we basically went
Mm,
back to Richmond. But
I was a senior in high school in writer's workshop class when that happened. Yeah. I'm in the
yeah,
suburbs, so I didn't see it, but I was like close enough where
dude, we were.
people we knew were like their parents worked
I
around there or whatever.
I made the
And it's a
mistake
whole
of I went down to Chelsea Piers right when the second tower was going down, and I was
oh
like, God,
man,
geez. Bobby was right across the river watching it from the other side.
damn. In
But yeah,
Brooklyn or
it was me and Dave and Bobby, everybody had been talking about what to do with Gwar, and that was the time period that we were all
right.
going out and doing stuff. So I was living in New York. I originally moved to Atlanta, and I was working in a scene shop down there, and I worked on some. I guess at the time it would have been not WCW. Yeah, it had been WCW. I worked on a wrestler's costume called Glacier, I built him a chest plate and a face mask and some gauntlets and some arm pieces, and it was for a relaunch of his character, and it was right when WWF bought them, and they just axed all the secondary contracts. Anybody who had like the bigger contracts got carried over to WWF, but then or whatever it got turned into at that point, you know. But that was awesome. When I lived down there, the scene shop I worked at, my bosses were awesome. They were really fun, and they got a script for a movie, and I was reading it, and I was like, wait, this looks like a lot. It looks like the Ronnie Dobbs character from Mr. Show, and I open up the cover, and of course, it's the Mr. Show movie, Run Ronnie Run. And I was like, you have to do this movie, and so I got to work on that movie.
That's funny. You know who did some costumes for Mr. Show is Green Jelly.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have any Green Jelly stories?
Oh yeah. Well, it was funny because they kept inviting us over to their space, and we'd go over there and hang out and see them when we go into LA. And it was really funny because the way they kind of held themselves in that position was really funny. They had this big facility that they'd painted all the Green Jelly characters on.
Yeah, it was the old Frank Zappa studio.
Yes. Yep. And I remember we were trying to keep all of our spaces so low key, like we didn't ever do that kind of shit where we were like, slave pit and blah blah blah, like all over the place. I think we even called it SP Incorporated on our sign out in front, just to put the fucking address on the place, right?
Yeah.
And I remember Bill being so bummed that he's like, well, we don't have a lot of kids coming here, and we're like, dude, we got kids coming from fucking Canada finding this place in the phone book. Like, trying to,
remember the phone book? Wow.
Yeah, that's how they found where the slave pit was. They look in the phone book, Like, oh my God, dude. So yeah, it was funny. They definitely had a they had a really good opportunity there. I think that it just, without concentrating on the music and concentrating on the things that made them,
they're still
popular
around
in the first place. Yeah, but I mean, it's not the same.
No.
You think about the remnants of how the show was, and you talk about trying to do
it
Gwar.
Evolved, yeah.
Yeah, try to do Gwar the commercial way. That's what they did, and they would have probably went even bigger if they would have been able to concentrate on keeping the consistency. Is Three Little Pigs that big of a hit? Yeah, sure, because the animation, the claymation for the thing was fucking amazing. And
you know who called that out before anybody? Do you know this story? Bill tells this story all the time. Apparently some of the guys from Gwar came to see Green Jelly, must have been like 1989, 90, something like that. And the Gwar people were pretty much almost the whole audience, there's maybe 20 people there. And one of them was Mike Bishop. And I know that because after the show, he went up to Bill. It was the first time they ever played Three Little Pigs. And he's like, dude, that song is a hit. Mike Bishop called that years before it was a hit.
And that's the thing, man. You talk about it in those terms and you're like, okay, well, those are the whatever people who were influencing it at the time that left or weren't part of it as it went into some of the other records. That's where it sort of kind of flew off the rails in a certain respect. And okay, so they went and they were doing other things, like they were concentrating on trying to build a facility studio, there. Yeah. And that's fine. That's great. That was a good idea, but I think they kind of, the longevity of it could have been there if they because that first record they're trying to do really okay, the serial killers, okay, ha ha ha, yeah, that's good. And then you talk about some of the Toucan Son of Sam and those characters, those were fun, and the fact that it was the kind of crude gore effects like we had and all the stuff that we had at the same time. It was like, I know Don always talked about Bill sitting there with a notepad just writing everything Don told him down.
Yeah, but the funny thing about that is that Bill basically threw that out the window and did it his own way anyways.
Right.
I mean, I've thrown those costumes off of rooftops and they're just like thump.
yeah,
Great.
yeah,
They're fine. They're all
yeah,
duct tape.
yeah. Well, yeah.
You can't do
But
that with a
even
Gwar costume.
yeah. Oh, yeah. You can. You can.
You can?
Yeah. It's basically because we at this point like that's why like they're always the weight of it and shit. It's like instead of the duct tape, we use the rubber in the same way because the rubber is infused with cheesecloth. So you have that like just straight up like okay, smash it, step on it. Like that's the irony that I always see is like some of the other members will be like you got to make the stuff stronger as they're stepping on it to get all
Right.
the
Yeah.
the sweat out of it. And it's like you're literally stepping all over it and it's fine.
Okay.
It's like,
Good. Good to know.
yeah.
Good to know.
No, like we make our props last. I mean, our props, most of that stuff lasts like a cycle is usually about 7 to 8 years on
Right.
a costume before we like replace it and stuff.
Mm.
But unless something really blows out, But
And I got to ask this one just because I'm the guy making the documentary about it, but do you have any haunted garage stories? Dookie Fleischwater.
I didn't get to meet those guys. It was just like right. I know that Gwar played a few shows with them. And
Apparently they never played together, but there's conflicting reports on that.
yeah, I don't know for sure. I know that
Mm.
they crossed paths back then
Yes, they definitely
somehow.
crossed paths. Yeah.
And there was that time period where like we were meeting so many people, and at any given point you were like, oh, there's so many different bands and people you were meeting that you were like, oh. I don't
Mhm.
remember all of them,
Gotcha.
but yeah, because
Here.
I mean we toured with a lot of bands at the time.
Mhm. Yeah, you did tour with a lot of bands. It's an impressive list when you go back and you're like, oh my god, like Typo Negative, like all these bands that are just like cult classics now.
Hmm.
Um, all right, here's a funny question. Um, last time I talked to Hunter, he thought it was funny seeing you kind of being him now, kind of being the guy who cracks the whip. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it is funny, man. Like he was commenting the whole trip we were together. I told him I was like, yeah, it's interesting to see what he was going through, like me watching him go through it as a kid and then seeing
Hmm.
some of the things he had to deal with and stuff, and then him turn around and look at me doing it. you know but like it was awesome that with the live show that we did together, it was a lot of fun, and it was so awesome that like it was a big honor to be able to help with direction and help with structure of the people that made this all possible. And
Yeah.
it was just it was to hear accolades from people about how I was doing a good job and how I was helping this out. I really appreciated it, and it was just really nice to know that those people you know think that they left it in good hands.
Right. Yeah.
you know
And yeah, I was lucky enough in reference to the video I started the show with to live in New York, so I got to see the show with Techno and Sexecutioner.
oh man.
Although Casey wasn't at that show.
Yeah, he had
So
gotten COVID,
yeah,
man.
and
But
then I saw the last show on that tour at Irving Plaza again, and then Hunter wasn't there. It's like it's so funny, like you never know what you're gonna get
yeah,
sometimes.
well, that was all COVID. That was all the
Yeah,
reason.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but those shows to have that was like one of the biggest bucket list things for me was like to be able to perform with Hunter as a Destructo, to
Hmm.
be like up there with him, and the way that he proposed and the way that we handled that those
There's some good
characters
jokes in
interacting.
there. There's some good
and
jokes, like on
and dude,
the Halloween show
he
DVD
brought
and
it,
stuff.
man. He
Yeah.
brought it so much. Like the fact that Bishop even brought it up. He's like, wow, it's just interesting to see that energy he brings. And it was like, yeah, but this was like us finding the dance partners that we used to dance with all the time. Like we all just fit right back in. If you like the times Chuck would come to the shows, he knew some of the bass choreography, but those were all old school presets we fell into where
Hmm.
we knew, okay, if you're throwing this and I'm catching that and I do this and I do that, then and then we're just beating the crap out of each other. It was
Yeah, yeah,
awesome. It was
yeah, and
so
he's in,
cool.
like, such good shape now, it's crazy.
Yeah, it was so
I
much
I
fun.
could tell, and especially through watching your live streams too, like, he was having so much fun bringing his wrestling knowledge, like, back to the Gwar,
Yes,
camp and
he was
everything.
very happy to be part of it, and it was great to have him back because he's always had good energy and he's always been, like he's great at that stuff, and to sit there and uh, again, like I was really stoked because I was like, fuck, I get to hang out with my friend again.
Yeah. Yeah, we were stoked, obviously too as fans, like, to see the creative force come back into,
Oh man, yeah.
uh, hopefully more energy like that in the future. Let's breeze through some I know, like, we're a little over our time here. Uh,
Yeah, it's
let's
okay. I
get
got a few more minutes.
Okay, cool, cool. Out of curiosity, did the heavier music in the early 2000s influence the darker art or vice versa?
No, I mean like
So, like,
we
violence has arrived, I
yeah, Violence
imagine.
as a Ride was a straight up like we felt like we were going a little too goofy. We were getting a little too far into, just stuff that, if you look at like Scum Dogs and you look at some of the earlier works of like having the harder edge or having the more eclectic edge on it versus how, We Kill Everything or those records had kind of, it got a little
Carnival.
goofy.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
Carnival,
yeah.
yeah, everything got a little goofy and a little bit more, you know, it didn't have as much cohesion. So that was why we were like, okay, effectively, we want to try to make it, more darker and like we said, it was like more spooky, less goofy was our
That's a
mandate
good
right
line,
then,
yeah.
and we were like trying to give Gwar a little bit of bite again and say, all right, so we've been pigeonholed as a metal band. Okay, let's appeal to the metal audience,
Right.
and that was sort of some of the move. But also, it was because the players we had at the time were, more geared towards that type of music. So that's what kind of started us getting into more of the metal area, and that has been like what you're saying about the newer record, having Bishop and having that kind of core group back in the mix of like
Yeah. To
being
me,
able to.
it has back that spirit of, like, this toilet earth and America must be destroyed. It's just, like, naturally there. It's the same pot, just stirred a little differently, is how I
Well,
say it.
it's being able to take those types of music and make it a little bit more eclectic, but still sound like
Yeah.
rock or heavy without going,
Mhm.
because all the digital influences that Dirks is trying to put into, like little Raspy and all those,
Mhm.
like that kind of stuff of experimenting with the sound versus,
There's a little bit of auto tune,
well,
and that's,
yeah,
like, a part of the joke, I get it.
and it's trying to make it, um, like having fun with that part of it again and making it, and that is the other thing, having those guys that are like, okay, the music has to be this good. It has to be
Yeah.
like, that's it. Stop. We're not going to just settle, and we're not just contractual obligation and record. It's like,
No, I
let's,
love it. Keep going on whatever
yeah.
path you're on because it's
Oh
working
no,
for
like
me.
I've been happy with the music. In fact, some of the other stuff that has been, getting kicked around is like, damn, that's good.
Are you gonna get another song or what?
Well, we've been talking about it because like you know, Bobby wants to sing another one. I do. We've talked about it like, hey, let's try to get the characters on there again.
Mhm.
And I'm always, because even like with, you know, I want to have a reason for
Sure.
Sawborg to be there because, the point being like, okay, he's not supposed to be Gore's friend. He's supposed to, he's one
Yeah,
of
because
them, but
your
he's
that
trying
character
to.
was kind of absent at the last tour, so
Yeah, and that was because we also were like, okay, well, to try to tell that story, the more digestible thing would be Blothar's, arc, so we could have
yeah.
the Blowfart come, and we talked about bringing little Sobby out and beating the shit out of him, but again, it was like I want to have a good reason for him to be out there, not just
Sure.
he's out there because he's out there,
Right.
but yeah, like I'm hoping that we can get some of the other storylines where it'd make more sense to have them because I was like, well, the Mad Monk was in his body, so maybe there's a part of him that's still in there,
Mhm.
yeah. maybe he mutates a little bit. I don't know.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I'd love to hear more characters again. Uh, I recently got into latex mask making. Any advice for a youngin? What are things
Yes,
to avoid? How do I find my airbrush technique?
wear your mask when you're using safety precautions. Definitely be safe. But airbrush
Goggles.
techniques, yeah, goggles. Airbrush techniques only come from practice with it because especially when you're trying to blow rubber through a gun, it's all about your mix. It's all about your air pressure in your mix. So you have to just practice. And that's, that's definitely with all these processes, like just practicing and there's lots of good YouTube tutorials and things like that. And um yeah, I mean, especially I know it's not the cheapest thing to get into, but if you look into like Reynolds or Smooth On or some of those other companies, a lot of them have like student programs or things that you can kind of get stuff on the cheap and materials that you can get, so it's not going to cost you a lot of money to just practice and refine it. But yeah, airbrush skills all come down to practice, man. That's all it is.
So let's see. This is a follow up from before. Who's the monster you guys usually kill on stage before the first song? At Baltimore and Franklin and Marshall Hall. Well, it's always different every tour, right?
Yes, yeah, because usually it ends up being a decap because
Yeah.
that's the easiest thing to kind of have movement and get the crowd all bloody before for the first song or
I don't
after the
remember
first
what
song.
the last tour was, but I remember the Blood of, I mean, the Dark New Ages tour was like those soldier guys, right? No, that was the Blood of Gods tour.
Yeah, the Soldier Guys was Blood of Gods. That was the Antarctic soldiers.
Yes, let's play the card game.
Yeah.
Margaret rules. Yes, let's see if there's
Yes.
any last minute questions here. God bless Margaret. She keeps easily accessible and clear reference photos for artists. Word. Yeah, that's true. Her
She
Instagram is
does.
like a wealth of knowledge.
Uh
Um, hold auditions for the next female character.
huh.
Yeah,
I know,
maybe
right?
do a contest. Bring on the. Let's see. Fuck yeah! I've been waiting for forever for Gwar action figures. Yes, all of us, all of us. You're gonna take all of our money yet again. Oh my God! Every month there's like some new Gwar, something coming out that I need to buy. God, I don't know. People are just talking to each other. What's that painting in the background? I don't know if it's a painting, but there's what's in your
Oh,
background? Is it the
oh.
wolf mask or is it that little thing on the top there?
It's a little let's see. Oh yeah, it's a little spooky guy.
Oh, cute.
I think that the name of the artist is Jokey or I Joke or something. I can't remember.
Will Dawn ever tour again?
I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah.
I don't
Uh,
know, but he
oh,
he usually likes to do stuff at home.
if you are in Melbourne, Florida this weekend, go
Ooh,
see Techno
techno.
Destructo wrestle. Yeah, my bad.
Techno's
Uh,
wrestling, yo.
Techno, do you have any space dominatrix in Florida? I'm sure he always finds the best girls for that. More Gorman songs. I agree. Ever since Zipper Pig, I was like, this is hardcore.
Yep.
Love me, Matt. Okay, I think we are need a Soul Calibur style video game. Yeah, what's with the Gwar video game, man?
Yeah, we've had so many issues with trying to get something together. It's always
That
a
I
thing.
did want to bring up. The cutter was awesome. I felt like that was like the best maybe Gwar video. That's definitely like the bloodiest. More
Yeah,
like
we
that, please.
we definitely, we've been using the same director for a while, and he really, we were like, we want to do this. We want to do this sort of like, 80s slasher looking kind of film.
Mm-hmm.
And some of our buddies like Jim Strammel and some of those guys, we were out at Brent's house filming till, dawn, trying to get everything done. And of course, it was like everything that could go wrong did, as far as like, okay, our fire didn't go the way it should have, and it started raining right at
Oh
the very
no.
last bit of shooting. We're like, in the shed with Margaret trying to get the last shots while it's pouring down rain. It was just
Always something.
it was crazy. But yeah, it was definitely like we wanted to have like the straight up slasher video, you know.
Yeah, I love that. I think
Mm-hmm.
please more of that in the future. Okay, I think we've come to the end. I guess, you know, is there any last, like, well, first of all, do you want to tease anything? And B, maybe leave us with like some nice memory or funny memory of Dave or Odorous. Oh, here's a question. What do you think Dave and or Odorous would think of the current climate and like the COVID and like the Trump era and all that? Do you think,
Oh, dude,
what do you think he would have done with this?
he'd have been having a field day, man. He would have been having a field day because like he was definitely a troll. He loved pressing the buttons, and man, he's a smart guy. He would have been you know I know the FBI watch list would have been way bigger on him at that point. But yeah, like I think he would have been having a field day with all this for sure. And um, yeah, I mean, dude, like so
Do you
many of
keep
the
that perspective in mind when you're writing new stories and
yeah, I mean, he resonates sometimes through some of those that what would Dave do kind of
Mhm.
questions. But yeah, like a lot of it is again, like I said earlier, man, like there were so many creative and amazing people who
Yeah.
have influenced what we still do and how we carry it forward, and that's the thing. He was definitely one of them, and he is missed. And yeah, I would say, my some of my best memories of him, unfortunately, were the last times that I did get to hang out with him was on our tour in Australia and Japan. And I
Oh,
had,
you saw Steve Douglas.
yeah, we
Yeah.
did. And it was the most time
Is
that I'd
Gorgor
been.
still there?
No, he's home with us.
Oh,
He's
okay.
back from
Great.
Australia. But it was the most time I'd spent with Dave in a while. And the best thing that I wish I'd been better at Snapchat because I didn't know how to
Mm.
fucking use it. I saw Scott Crawl and Dave. I was walking them back from the bar in Osaka, and they were so happy. They were just so drunk and so happy, and they were like, we made it," and they're hugging each other in the
Oh.
street as I'm pulling them out of the way of the cabs and shit. But I was like, this was just such a sweet moment between two lifelong friends who were there, and I got to be part of it, and it was like, and that whole trip, it was bittersweet.
What do you
And
think? Yeah.
you know
What do you think he would think about the Redskins renaming?
dude, there'd have been 27 different blogs and a
Yeah.
petition, and he would have been livid.
Well, dude, this has been so cool. Thank you so
Yep.
much.
Thank you, man.
Anytime you want to come back or anytime you want to promote anything,
Yeah, man.
definitely use me as a vessel if you need,
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. That'd be great.
And let's see, I'll leave you guys off with some promo. Oh, let me show you what's coming up next on the GWARPod.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, and I don't think I've had any new bookings since last time, but still, let me get to my slideshow here. Last 2 weeks ago we had the Gwar kid, so if you didn't see that, go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Were you there at Jerry Springer?
I didn't get to go to that one, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was there for when he came to the show in Ohio.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
VHS Mikey, he's not in Gwar, but he is a fan like me,
Nice.
and I discovered his love of Gwar on his awesome YouTube channel when he was reviewing the Holliston Christmas
Oh,
special
sweet.
VHS specifically. So we're going to
Nice.
talk about old VHS tapes, and then we got Cliff Roth coming on
All
the show.
right.
We all know, we all
Yeah.
love his
Yep.
artwork. Go follow him if you don't already. Hey, we got another Death Piggy coming on the
Nice.
show. How about
Oh,
that?
awesome.
Do you know anything about his character, Mr.
Oh yeah, Mr.
Magico?
Magic. Yeah,
Because I don't think I've seen any reference photos for that one.
He'd come out and do magic tricks. It was
What? Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yep.
What did he look like? Is there any pictures of this guy?
He had a magician's look to him. I remember that.
And he
part
played
of it,
guitar too? Or
Yeah,
was he just
I
a
don't-
character?
I don't remember that. I
Yeah,
don't
we're gonna
remember all
find
of it.
out. If you have all the same questions I do about that, Wednesday, March 22nd, be here. And then this is the last one I got booked for now. I don't know if you've played this game. They're one of those nerdy
Oh, no.
games. I guess they've been heavily influenced by Gwar and
No, I
all
haven't
the
played
all
that
the
one.
nerd culture and everything like that.
Nice. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's coming up on the GWARPod. I'm gonna leave you guys with some trailers for the stuff I do. I don't know if you'll like it if you like Gwar, but stick with me and I'll have some heavier stuff coming. But check out my music. It's on Bandcamp. Look up Kevin
Nice.
Vonesper.
Nice.
There's a cool tape is in there now, or compilation tape if you like your retro stuff. And yes, I'm still working on the Dookie doc very, very slowly. I just got a really long interview with their guitar player Gabby Godhead, so things are rolling. And yeah, dude, thanks so much. I'm gonna roll some trailers and let you get onto your Gwar and doing whatever your Gwar stuff that you do.
Yeah,
on the off day.
gotta go to sleep so I can go back to slaving in the morning.
That's right. Yeah. What's the first thing you're gonna work on in the morning at the slave pit?
Got to finish that Gwar bar t-shirt design.
Right. Cool. All right, guys, come back basically every other Wednesday unless you see otherwise. Follow me at GWARPod on Instagram is where I hang out mostly. Follow Matt at Sawborg Destructo and
Gwar.net.
Gwar.net for all buy your cuttlefishes while they're still there. Cheers. Cool, man. Thank you. And let me get my videos rolling. I'm gonna play the Dookie Doc trailer first. Well, I'm gonna play one of them.
What influence did B movies have on the band?
How many tapes do you have? How many loads have you got?
It started out as a band that was covering bad songs from bad movies.
I mean, it should be looked at as a legacy of Los Angeles.
They live the movie lifestyle.
I had seen many of Dookie's movies long before I knew who he was.
I first saw Dookie Flyswatter in a green Jello video.
Because as soon as I saw him up on the stage, I go, oh, fuck, that's that guy from Surf Nazis.
Roger Ebert said it's the worst movie he's ever seen.
They were such a part of our scene.
You know, a cult movie that's got its own fans, we've attracted our own fans and our own family.
Within a city of misfits like Hollywood, we were misfits.
He's an icon of the underground exploitational genre.
Punk rock god of Hollywood.
It was neat to see the same faces always orbiting this universe that Dookie Flyswatter seemed to be in the center of.
There was celebrities, weird people, cool people, interesting people.
Axl and Sass came to see us and I slimed them really good.
Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons.
Tom Waits was there.
I remember Fishbone showing up at a couple of gigs.
Courtney Love was afraid of us.
When you're sitting between Dookie and Elvira, it doesn't get any cooler than that.
Spike Lee wasn't impressed.
I'm just about to go on stage and Flea grabs my shoulder.
White Zombie and Haunted Garage and Tool were all in the same bill.
I think Soundgarden was opening for you. I would not be surprised.
I did a nude painting.
Clive Barker owns that painting.
Los Angeles seems to be a haven for insularly popular artist situation. You can destroy here, and nobody knows where you are anywhere else. No. It's crazy.
We'd like to be an A movie someday. A B-A movie. An A-B movie.
A B-A movie?
A B-A movie.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Welcome to my pity party. Everyone's invited. Celebrate your misery. Apart but united. Hits. I'm writing hits.
Comment below! Comment below! Comment below!
Like, share, subscribe.